right, guys, welcome to Scotty's podcast. We got my man Ravi here with us, tagging along, all 6 foot five and a half of them, or whatever he is, uh, coming from Budapest. And then we got our fellow GLL alumni, basically, Cam, who started Radical Improvements. He works with Andy. You guys should go check out some of his work over there. Kill your inner loser. Excuse me. He's going to be joining us today, just I guess covering a wide range of topics when it comes to dating, and we'll get some of his thoughts on what he thinks about the market today.
For sure.
So, without further ado, Robbie, what do you take lead us off, man?
Let's start this with we like a lot of us want to learn about um, where you really were when GLL was coming to the fore, because where me and Cam come into this discussion, we're watching and learning from you guys. We're sitting there and like trying to change our mindset and start to go for big and ambitious goals in life. You and Chris started all of this. And eventually it became one of the legendary communities. To this day, my humble opinion, Good Looking Loser was the greatest self-improvement community that we have seen. We would love to know, how did this come about? Could you take us back?
Sure, man. Yeah, I'd love to take it back. It actually, I'll go back a little bit further. Like I said, I was a competitive bodybuilder, and I had a friend of mine that I was working with. I would train with him, and he had a lot of supplements and stuff for me and stuff. But he actually got out of a bad breakup, and I got out of a bad breakup, and he was really big into the PUA stuff. He was reading mystery and stuff like that, and he wanted me to take a boot camp with him. I really knew nothing about the seduction community at all, so except outside of this particular guy. So all fields tied together. Like this was part of the bodybuilding thing, and then this one guy, this bodybuilder and supplement guy, he got into it hardcore, and he took a boot camp. So he convinced me to take it with him. I knew nothing about it. I didn't study anything. I didn't like know any formal pickup whatsoever, and I just went along with him, and turned out to be a pretty damn good experience. It was Brad P's underground dating seminar. It was like I guess kind of like right around mysteries era and things like that. It was not nearly as popular as it was that dating coach on every corner, but there was only I think a handful of companies at that point. But yeah, anyway, what I took from that boot camp was that, man, it was possible. Like we went to the city, and I think I ended up with like seven numbers to make out, and I was just blown away that this was even possible. Mind you, up until then, I had like I had two girlfriends, and I had no ability to go talk to a stranger or meet girls on the street like that. Like that was not even a possibility at that point. So, um, a handful of girls off of like MySpace, a handful of girls off like Match.com. I mean, it was really bleak at that point. So that's why I was definitely open to taking a workshop with this guy, and he was fully sold on this because he had been studying like formal pickup, and just so happened through the bodybuilding community, whatever. Um, so that's how I kind of got started. It opened my eyes to seeing what was possible, that's for sure. And it just the floodgates opened from there. I think the fact of like the camaraderie and everybody, pushing each other to and help each other out was really a totally unique experience for me. And I'm pretty grateful I came across something like that. I mean, we can knock it and rip it for all the flaws that the PUA stuff has, but I have nothing but good, reviews to say about the boot camp itself. And then I continued to follow it up. I got so into it, and some of the coaches were so impressed that they wanted to continue to work with me. And I took a couple one-on-one sessions with the main guy at the time, Brad P. And um, yeah, and some of the stuff I was really pulling off was remarkable. Some of the most eye-opening things he had seen. So I was really focusing on like these quick pulls, and I had listened to all of his CDs. And I think one of the CDs that really inspired me the most was like the Pheromone Kid. I would literally listen to this stuff day in and day out during work, all the time in my car, just like absorbing this guy's vibe and mentality. He wasn't anything like PUA stuff. So I immediately didn't resonate with any of the lingo, the PUA, the canned openers, and things like that. They were helping a few guys, but for some reason, my innate ability was just to go direct with girls right off the bat. That was the only little bit of conflict during the boot camp because they weren't really advising guys to go direct from the start. But what I liked about this company was that they were very flexible. They weren't, if you were getting results doing something the way you were doing it, they weren't going to adjust anything. So that aspect I did like. And I was really, really drawn to this guy, the Pheromone kid, who he interviewed once, and he was really about quick pulls, and I just basically emulated that. Just tried to take every little bit I learned from just those CDs. I never met the guy in person or anything like that, but I felt like I knew him personally. That's how much I listened to his CDs and stuff. So um, that definitely inspired me. I started racking up like really uh, racking up numbers. I set goals, and I just wanted to get a lot more experience under my belt with women because I really felt like I was coming from behind. Uh, I lost my virginity at 19. I just and a lot of the buddies I grew up with, in high school were all getting laid. They were pretty popular kids, football players and things like that. And I had my opportunities to do it. I just was, I don't know, I couldn't capitalize. I had tremendous sexual anxiety when it came to women. And so I just like, and then once I had those two girlfriends who were notches above me, like look, like just I just felt like with overall experience and overall development, these were attractive women's 24-year-old bartenders that were working at like the hottest bars. And I happened to land some of the two hot girlfriends just I think based on my looks and that I had that bodybuilding thing going for me where a part of that was like I don't give a fuck mentality. So I still had some of that with me because you're so focused on, you know, your craft and your diet and your plans that you're like Palumbo actually would always tell me, he goes, you'd be surprised at how many girls you end up that just are naturally attracted to you just because you're focused so diligently, on your craft, you know, whoever's in your field. I happen to meet my second girlfriend as a personal trainer. She was another trainer. So I'm trying to get off. I'm getting on track a little bit here, but yeah, the point is I had very little experience and I was all in on this stuff. Once I had seen some of the results that I got from the boot camp and everything, I worked with this guy, I set goals, and then I really was like, damn, maybe I could be an assistant coach because this guy was that they weren't as good as I had originally thought. And I didn't realize how big of a gap there wasn't as big of a gap as I originally thought between me and some of the so-called top guys out there that were working for this company. So he obviously, once I expressed interest to work for him as an assistant, he obviously took me under his wing as well. And I just started working with him, taking on certain gigs and going to London as an assistant and went to LA. And that's pretty much how I met Chris. Chris was out, very small world. This is how it all ties together is that he was out in a one of their mansions, a pickup mansion, and I went out there to coach them because they thought actually me and him would be a good fit because he wasn't really fitting in with some of these other guys as well. And he was into lifting and big bodybuilder guys. So they thought we would be a pretty good match and I could, help him out in any way possible. But that's how it all began, man. So ever since that time, I went to California. Me and him just off, and we stayed in touch, and we just would always talk to each other on the phone and everything like that. And I pretty much tried to follow his journey. I was no longer working with Brad at the time, right around when GLL came into existence. He came to New York and we filmed like our first video together. And um, that's, that's the rest is history, man. That's kind of how it all got started. That's a little bit of a backstory. Yeah.
That's beautiful. We hear so Derek from More Plates More Dates actually asked Chris this question. Of course, there's endless people who are fascinated by Scotty on the internet, like to this day. There's a lot who ask me all sorts of questions. And one of the things that Chris says on that episode that he did with Derek is you guys immediately bonded over like a bodybuilding supplement that you guys were using. Some sort I can't remember the name of it, but you guys remarked that using this supplement, um, it was like I don't know exactly what it is, but you guys felt as if it actually made you want to be more social, and it actually helped you approach or something like that. Um, that's just one of the ones for the GLL law. Speaking of which, that's where our guest here, one of my former
Yes.
coaches, Radical Improvements, who's one of the excellent men's coaches in this world, has helped me tremendously in my own development and my journey, and in Radical's program. I had a lot of results, a lot of success, grew a lot, healed a lot, and started my business. Now, a question for you, former coach, is talk to us about how you found GLL and what that experience was like for you at the time.
Yeah, so this one's a bit messy because I think I found GLL over like I found GLL, but I didn't go all in with it for a couple of years. So it's kind of like finding it, having that moment of like, oh shit, this is this is the shit that speaks to me more than anything else I found. That was like the biggest reaction that I had to it. But for lack of a better word, like I was a pussy. So I didn't go all in at the time. It was more of a dipping my toes in the water. I had a bit of like apprehension about some of the stuff. I had a lot of stuff to deprogram. And I think I maybe found it before I was ready for it. But the beautiful thing about finding it, which is in like 2014. So I don't think you were around, Scotty, anymore. I think I just missed the last time you were like fully active in the forum or anything like that. And Chris was definitely writing his articles more from I'm kind of gone solo now. And that's basically my memory of it. But your section in the forum was still there. So I was still reading tons of like especially the reviews of like going out with you and doing like day game sessions and stuff. Specifically the guys who talk about how you just walk through traffic. It's like one of the funniest things, like reading that.
Cross
Just
like
like, oh,
Scotty.
Scotty doesn't give a
Yeah.
shit about traffic. It's like,
Yeah.
I think you nearly got a couple of students run over. That's what I got from those forum posts.
Killer
I
instinct,
think
bro.
that's the one aspect of things that I've like probably calmed down with a little bit. I think initially I was big into like this because I was taught under this guy Brad P, and he was so big into breaking state, like changing your state. He read a lot of Tony Robbins books and stuff like that. He had his students read Tony Robbins books, and he was really big into like your state and changing your state. And most guys are walking around in this sort of zombie like mode, and they're just like rolling around in thought all day. So like just to get anything to get these guys to snap out of it, including myself, because that's kind of how I was taught, was like do some of these obscene things. Like, when I first met Chris, I was like, I had this ability to jump up and down and like just do all these like, I guess exercise to a certain extent, but like also do these outlandish acts, almost like pranks and stuff like that a little bit. Like you would running traffic, stupid shit like that. Just do all sorts of crazy shit to just snap you out of this, just quiet zombie like, robotic mode.
Yeah, that comes across in the AA
But
program.
I veered away. Yeah, I veered away from that a little bit. Yeah, I think Chris took some of those concepts from, the AA program for sure.
Yeah, he's like some of the stuff like is really stupid in the AA program and makes you feel ridiculous. And I think that's really
Yeah.
important for like, especially like the where's the beach stuff, like where you're meant to flex and like where's the beach and like pulling pulling lines out of Arnold Schwarzenegger films. I think it's one of the films, Kindergarten Cop. He like makes you recite lines from Kindergarten Cop to people and stuff. So and like I don't get the references because I'm not that generation. So like I didn't understand why the hell I was saying this. So that was like, yeah, it was a
Right.
really weird thing to do, that AA program stuff. I actually did that when I first found GLL, I did do up to week 4, I think, of the AA program. So I did try and jump into stuff. I did Victor Pride's discipline stuff. There was a lot of stuff I did try, but it was really interesting hearing you talk about sexual anxiety and hesitancy in that regard, because I had that like really bad too. And again,
Yeah.
I was living in a college in like a house of very popular guys. Like they also worked out. They were like everyone liked them, everyone liked me, and I had opportunities to like get with girls and lose my virginity. And I think a couple of occasions I literally ran away from girls. Like that was how like much my anxiety was there. And my friends were
Yeah.
like, "What the fuck?" as well, because they saw me like a girl come up to me, put her arms around me, and try and make out with me, and I like pushed her away and like ran off to the bathroom. So like there is like a level of like I really understand the sexual anxiety thing. Like it does happen to men, and that doesn't
Yeah.
get talked about enough, in my opinion. I've done a bit of content on it, but
Yeah. It doesn't
guys who
get
are just
talked
like
about enough.
no, yeah, guys who are like not, we don't, some guys just don't mature at the rate. I had friends who lost their virginity at like 14, 15. And like,
Yeah.
I was
Likewise.
nowhere near like at the stage where I would have been ready to do that until I was like 20, which is crazy. Like
Dude,
how
I was always
development is.
I was always embarrassed. Like I was a fairly decent looking guy from what I told from others and stuff like that. And like, it sounds like we have a very similar story as far as we hung out with all the cool kids. Like I was a liked guy. I would have cool house parties. You know, my house at one point in high school was known as the house that everybody could come to in the basement or whatever and hang out and have drinks and listen to music and stay up all night. But like, dude, I had like plenty of opportunities and I just was afraid of women. I was like afraid. And girls are like in high school are overtly sexual. They're like, I think they're maturing at a quicker rate. Like some of these girls were fully developed, huge chests. Like, dude, I was just a little kid in a shell, and I was so nervous. I couldn't capitalize on anything sexual. Like I could totally relate to like literally running away from girls. And multiple occasions where girls were just like, I want to blow you. And like, I was afraid. I just didn't want any. It was almost so scary. And we're guys, as opposed to women, are, it's the complete different experience. You're shamed for that stuff. Like, that is considered like, that's an embarrassment. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that really hit me hard, man. Like, so a lot of my stuff came from a tremendous amount of insecurity and needing.
Yeah.
I probably took it to the absolute extreme because I needed a tremendous amount of validation, probably even some to this point, but even more back then because it was such like a fresh wound that the moment I got out of high school and focused on about lifting and then onto the pickup stuff, I was like 110% in, man. I took it to the absolute extreme. I was like, no longer am I going to be pussy. I want to do fucking every sexual thing under the sun, and that's just the way my story goes.
Yeah, it's like you hold on to that as well because you're hanging around cool kids and you're hanging around guys who are sexually active and are fucking loads of girls. Like one of my mates had like 100 lay count at like 19. Like he was like
Yeah.
going right through college like as
Yo,
hard as
who
he
the
could.
fuck is that? Who the fuck
Yeah,
is that guy, dude? That
but
dude's a
like
fucking beast.
Yeah.
like he just went through college super. He's just really good looking dude that went through college super hard and didn't give a fuck. And like he was just he pulled like two girls out of our seminar group within the first like month. I was like, Jesus Christ, man. But like you hang around with
Yeah.
these guys, you chat to them, and they start talking to you about sex, and you're like, yeah, yeah. Like, you know, it's just like you've got this like weird, like you're cool. Like people think you're cool, but you have this weird, like for me, it was a secret. I didn't tell anyone I was a virgin. It would actually been better, I think, if I told mates that I hadn't lost
Yeah.
it yet and they could have talked me through it. But I was too embarrassed about it to just make shit up and lie, which is, I think, actually the worst,
Yeah.
probably the worst route to go down looking back. But, you know, you do what you can with the information you have. I will
Dude, it's
say, I was
funny.
going to
That's
ask
the
you this.
polar. Go ahead, Scan. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you a question about your first girlfriends because
Yeah.
I noticed that I also, like you, ended up with a really hot girl fairly early on in my dating, and I felt like there was a mismatch there because she was so much like more experienced and like had a higher level of like this stuff than I did, and I felt like
Yeah.
that was part of the insecurity that drove me eventually to go back to GLL was my experience in this relationship where I felt massively less cool and less like at her level. And I felt like if I had been more at her level, it would have worked out a lot better. And I wanted to know if there was anything you felt similar with the girls you dated.
Absolutely, 100%, man. These girls were. Do you remember the movie Coyote Ugly? That
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Yeah, this girl was like one of the hottest bars in this type of bar at Coyote Ugly. It was like I wasn't even allowed in there. I was 19 years old. I was, like I said, I was ashamed. I didn't tell her I was a virgin, but I was a virgin, and like because it was an embarrassment, bro. Like I said, the women and guy experience is polar opposite. We are kind of shamed for not hooking up and being a player and hooking up with girls. And girls, I guess, that's a totally different experience. If they're, the village ride, they're being totally shamed and stuff like that too. So yeah, this girl was, she was really hot. I just honestly, I attribute it to just maybe sheer looks at that point. I got her off of MySpace. Actually, Palumbo wrote like a generic message and sent out a bunch of messages to a bunch of girls on MySpace, and there was actually hot girls at the time on MySpace, a lot. That was like the main um platform that people were using. And yeah, I landed a pretty hot, like sexy Puerto Rican Italian girl, and she was 24 and I was 19, and she just had it all going on. She was making money. She was just like, I just felt like she was just notches and levels above me at that point. And shit, whatever I did to get her, like it was just off of sheer looks and my physique and stuff like that at the time, and really had no game. But I ended up landing her, and I was like, I was devastated, obviously, when she broke up with me because I couldn't maintain a relationship at that point. She obviously had more options, and she was a bit hot shit at that time. So yeah, man, I could definitely relate to that.
That's weird, man. My ex is the ex I'm talking about is also part Puerto Rican. They are the hottest fucking girls on the planet. In my opinion. Like any girl with a bit of Puerto Rican in her is like
They
Yeah,
crazy.
drive
dude.
everyone to GLL.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So that's like my turning point, but that's like, so when I first found you guys was 19. When I got this girl, like they basically devastated me when I was like 25. So there was like 6 years in between where like I kind of floated around, tried the normie kind of lifestyle shit, tried to go and get a finance job, ended up in Australia. I got lucky because I was in spitting distance of Andy, who you've spoken to, KillYourInnerLoser. So I was able to
yeah,
literally be like, I'm going all the fuck in. I'm gonna pay this dude and go out to meet him in person. So I was like, fuck doing anything over Zoom or like online or whatever. It wasn't even Zoom back then. It was like Skype. So it was like, I'm gonna fly to Melbourne. It was only like, it wasn't that far, but it was a
yeah,
case of this is my all-in moment. I remember actually, I was like in Sydney Harbour, just like looking at the water, and it's like, I'm either jumping in the water or going to see Andy. There was like two fucking choices, and obviously I wasn't gonna kill myself, so it was like, yeah, that's what I'm gonna go do.
bro. So you
And
met
that,
him off of GLL?
yeah,
That's how you guys linked up? Oh,
he was a
nice,
forum
nice. Okay,
moderator.
cool, man.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he didn't have his, he
And
had his
back
own
to that,
website, but he didn't have the forum at the moment.
ba-
He was only had
you know,
GLL forum.
yeah, back to that AA thing. Like, I think that was kind of like I wasn't that much in the loop of that because I do remember certain clients coming to me and they're like, "Yo, I did the AA program," and I was like, "Oh, you went to Alcoholics Anonymous?" He's like, "Dude, no, I did the AA program for GLL." I'm like, so I was totally like out of the loop with that. I think that was all on Chris, whatever he came up with that, and yeah, I was like kind of. I don't know, man. I was just spending I was like really living that life. I was out all the time. I just didn't spend a lot of time on the computer. And when I did log into the computer, there were a decent amount of people that were interested in coaching, and I took it on like for the basically small weekend jobs, little stuff like that, meeting up with these guys, barely charging them anything, hanging out with them, just having a blast.
Yeah.
Living that lifestyle. Like I wasn't dedicated to being an entrepreneur or starting a channel. It was just I was in a totally different mind frame, and I was working for my dad at the time. So like, this is just gonna be a shit ton of fun. Meet up with these guys on the weekend, and then see if I can get these guys results and shit. So I knew I
No
was living
doubt
that
that
lifestyle.
no doubt that was like that helped your vibe a lot to like not be online at that time as well though. Like I feel like the more I go online, I'm worried it like damages my vibe a little bit. So I like try and make sure I always do like offline shit as much as possible, just to make sure I'm like, if I spend like 3 weeks and I haven't gone out with my mates and I've just been like doing like online entrepreneurial stuff, I don't know,
Dude,
something feels a bit
that's
wrong
why
about
Chris
it.
is kind of like a pioneer, because at the time it was even much easier to get away from that because it was nowhere near as big as it was today. You know what I mean? Like a blogger was, kind of like a unique guy. He was writing like consistent blogs and things like that. And YouTube is nowhere near as big. Like I said, when Jeff Magic dropped that video on RX Muscle, I think it blew up for like 15,000 views or something like that. I think that was like my most viewed video or some shit. But I didn't even know at the time. I didn't have even a YouTube account. So it's
I
crazy,
can't believe
man.
he
YouTube
posted
is kind of
that.
small.
I can't believe he posted it. It looks so bad for him. Like from our perspective, at least. Like I feel like it looks like a bodybuilder, like just destroying a guy who's dressed as like a magician. I was just like, what is going on here? Like it's
Right.
obvious who gets more girls to anyone with a brain, like based on just on like you don't judge looks, but we do judge looks. So it's like this guy looks like a strip mall magician. Like what the fuck are you talking about? Anyway, that's the point.
Yeah,
It's
like I
really
said,
funny.
it was
Carry
funny, and
on.
I mean, at the time, like information wise, I think even Chris said, yeah, you might be able to outtalk me and all stuff like this, but I just knew in my heart what I was doing. And yeah, maybe, and there, a lot of people would use the excuse that we don't, even on that show that day, they said like, oh, we don't look like you, Scotty. So we're going to go with Jeff. So people would prefer to go with a guy who can explain things well to them, but he's not getting the results. So it was depending on, I'm just going to either shadow this guy and I don't really give a fuck about what he's saying theoretically. We know he's getting results, or I'd rather just, learn in a classroom style, but this guy's not getting the same level of results. So that was the decision most people had to make. I've obviously become more, I guess, articulate and I could explain things on a better level now. I'm still not great at that. That's not my forte. But I mean, back then I was solely just, straight game, just, gorilla mode, just walk up to girl, animal instinct. Just, I really took the vibe of the Pheromone kid stuff and I ran with it, man. I kind of made it into my own beast.
Yeah, the first time I tried one of your things, because I said I didn't really have like I didn't have a platform to try it when I was like first found it. But when I was after I saw or just before I would see Andy, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna try something from GLL. I tried the whole like I was chatting to this girl in a bar and I was like, oh yeah, I remember Chris and Scotty say just grab her hand and see where she's at. Like just grab her hand and you can tell from her reaction like where she's at. And like at the time she was like some guy had bought her a drink, like as in I'd gone to the bathroom and this guy had come in immediately and bought this girl a drink. And
Right.
I basically just like stormed in and grabbed her by the hand, like to see if she was like, yeah, to see if she was like still like has her attention shifted or is it still to me? And she just grabbed my hand back and like turned into me and like ignored this dude that like just bought her a drink. And I was like, fuck yeah, this is such a fucking good move. Because it's like yes, it's like are you fuck yes or no? Like, are you gonna grab my hand back? You know what I mean? That kind of shit. And like I remember, I
Here's
don't know
the
if it was your
that
technique or it's Chris's, but I got it from Chris. And I think he attributed it to you. So I
yeah,
don't know
for
which
sure,
one
for
he was
sure.
from. Yeah.
Sure.
Mm.
And that's a big thing right there. That's a little bit of a secret for some guys out there dropping some game is that, yeah, if you don't like going to clubs, there's no big deal. I hear a lot of guys say that, and that's fine. I'm not a big club guy either, but the key is go right around like, if you're in a city where they close at 2, go at like 1:30, 1:45 and just roam the streets right outside the clubs. And dude, a lot of these girls buying temperature is so high from just all these schmucks buying them drinks and rubbing up against them, doing this, doing that. Then all of a sudden, like you said, you come along and it's just ripe. The girl is ready to go and ripe. So I've gotten a lot of pulls that way. Just if you're not into just going to clubs all night, don't just go ripe. In a half hour before they close and start getting kicked out. And these girls' buying temperature at that point is really high. You can get numbers quickly. You can get makeouts. You can get pulls pretty quickly. Yeah, that's another good strategy that guys don't. I don't hear guys talk about enough. It's just like, oh, I'm not a club guy. Clubs aren't for me. Well, you don't have to be a club guy. Like there's a way to capitalize on that by just going, 30 minutes before it closes.
Mm. I want to
That's
build
nice.
on this theme of things that Cam and myself both have learned from yourself. And just to kind of like segue into that, I've got something I'm going to pull up on screen. You highlighted just there, Brian, that when it comes to actually transmitting this knowledge, like there's some why Chris was so brilliant is he found one of the most prolific and legendary womanizers, which is yourself, and he deconstructed and understood like why you are successful as you are, right? That's where all the core knowledge comes from. That's why we learn about social calibration, vibe, killer instinct, um, how to sexualize, all these things, right? You're a real great example of these things because you do them at such a high level that when we look at your example and we can start to piece these things together and we can learn and develop these things within ourselves. And you highlight there that over time you've learned more about how to really coach and effectively transmit those things. That's what I do. That's my forte. What I do with accountability and high performance. It's really about driving that change. So learning from people like yourself and taking effective practice and then applying it, breaking through from theory and going into practice is a thing that I've developed to a significant extent. And to kind of like now segue us into some of the core ideas that many of us have learned from you. I just want to pull up some of the great just forum posts from GLL of people who hung out with you and just watched you, right? Because there's some good shit here. I'm just going to pull up right now. So these
Ravi,
are just guys.
I need
These
to
are
grab
just
my
guys.
Ravi, I
Sorry,
need
you
to grab
said
my power cord quickly. You just
cool,
want to
bro.
pause for
Yeah,
a
you do your
second.
thing.
I'm gonna run out
That's
of power.
no, you're good. You're good. Do your thing. All right, so I'm going to share. Let me bring up these. So yeah. All right. So I'm going to pull them up.
All right.
This is just some posts from right. So as you can imagine, there are endless of these I can bring up. Yeah. Probably Brian doesn't even know about a lot of these because he wasn't very online. He was actually going out and getting results. But I'll just read some of these things, right? So these things actually change people's lives. Just having 1 day, 2 days with Scotty changed many men's lives forever after that. Scotty, I'll never forget the day we went out in New York. You opened my eyes to what's possible, and you've had a huge impact on my life. It's not even your skills with women that are impressive. It's you as a person. Yeah. It's his energy. It's his vibe. When you learn, right? Just how like I've spent so many hours of my life just listening to Chris and Scotty, just talking about different things, how they communicate, how the things coming off them carry so much emotion, expressiveness. That's really what attracts people. And you learn. I can understand this and break this down, but I just want to highlight these things. Yeah, it's his vibe and it's his interpersonal energy why he's so fucking successful. So another one, Brian, I wish you best in your journey. On a podcast last year with Chris, he talked about how killer instinct equals emotional honesty, and this was one of, if not the most inspiring advice I ever heard. So I also used to listen to you talking about these things, Brian. You talk about killer instinct, and what I learned is that like when you're in touch with your emotions, so many things that you even said today, you said when you're out there, you were guerrilla mode, right? You're actually being fueled by your inner emotions. That's the fucking powerful shit when you're in touch with your emotions and you can feel it and act on it. Yeah. Killer instinct. Again, these are classic Scotty concepts that we learned from you. Brian, you're an amazing inspiration to us all, myself included. Even though we haven't met, I've always personally overjoyed when I've realized that helping other guys means the world to you. Yeah, I can attest to this to this day. Yeah, uh, coaching guys is still Brian's complete devotion and passion. Is very wonderful thing to see. Man, Scotty, you've always been a great inspiration to me. Chris always raving about how relentlessly you hit numbers, displayed raw instinct, and helped other members in need. As I was needed to know, you're the real deal. And we all know that. I'm in the process of moving to New York and was hoping to meet Scotty. It's been a huge inspiration to listen. Yeah, like myself, just listening to Chris and Scotty podcast would actually work for me and felt raw, uncensored. Yeah, again, uncensored by monetary motivations. Brian was just rolling with people, man, just doing his passion. Yeah, this is what he cares about. So all of these things that he's highlighted here, like we've got many people, and I could go on all day. I've got so many of these, right? But there's some really good ones. Yeah, again, this is a good one. Scotty, what you said in the podcast had a huge impact on my life, not only about women, but about being a man in general. You've got a gift for this, bro. You inspire people, and I can't thank you enough. And I'm going to talk about some other things that and I'm going to pass it over to Cam. I want Cam to highlight some of the things he learned from you and Chris. Your life's an inspiration. I fight my own demons, so I understand. Your lifestyle pushed me to chase and fuck the shit out of my dreams. I was a badass DJ, and now, okay, now I work for a selective part of the FBI, all because of you.
Dude, I didn't even know about these reviews at all. I mean, I knew
bro,
about the reviews like on my section that the guys who actually took one-on-ones with me, but just these are just basic reviews that I didn't even know about. Yeah.
There's thousands of these. It's ridiculous. There's so many that I've got huge documents of this stuff. Scotty, you're my role model in many ways. The social freedom and killer instinct, again, that's what inspired me. That inspires me as I want to be like that one day. This could have been me sitting in my room writing this when I was stuck in my life at 20. It's funny how not having demons or dark sides can just be as destructive in many ways. They're talking about the inner world. Okay, we've all learned a lot from you, and your legacy will endure here forever. True. Thanks for allowing us to experience this. Truly, we'll do our best to live your advice day after day. Right. Man, Scotty is probably the best at getting women I've ever seen, and at everything, a superhuman if there ever was one. Please make a video or something or another podcast. It's not a good time to retire, Scotty. Yeah. Hey, Scotty, your inspiration. Yeah, so on. I took your workshop last year, and it really changed my life and made me realize my full potential. That's what GLL is about to me. Realize your full potential. There goes one of the greatest legends the world has ever known. Brian is the man. Thank you, Scotty, for inspiring me. I was picked on in high school and was a reject in college. I now hit on 10 girls a day. They don't have to be hot. I get rejected more, but I fuck more. One day it will come full circle. Yeah. Brian is one of the few guys I've seen who has a presence about him and makes everyone around him shut up when he speaks facts. Yeah, we know that. Regardless of what UA community says with their bullshit, that quality cannot be taught. Vibe, masculinity. Yeah. This is why Brian went from where he was, sexual anxiety, so he's in the beginner stage, then he got to intermediate, then he got to beyond that, advanced, and he got to elite, and then he entered greatest of all time territory. He got even beyond elite, he got to become one of the GOATs. Okay. A great one among us has bowed out. Yeah, if Brian decides to write a book, I'll buy that first copy. That's going to be ghostwritten by me at this point. Yeah. So Scotty is the best at picking up women I've met in this community or anywhere. To be honest, he's also a great guy all around. He's a prime example of a guy with whom game is more or less a consequence of his look in life. It's Aaron Sleazy said that, yeah. So he's a very proven guy, and he said.
Oh wait, who said that? That was
Aaron
from
Sleazy.
Sleazy?
Yeah.
Really, that's awesome. Yeah, that
says,
Sleazy was a good guy. I actually met with that guy, man. He's a well-respected guy in the forums back in the day, and he was really good at fast seduction, quick pulls, and stuff like that, man. He was impressive.
Wasn't he the
I
first
learned
guy
a
to
lot
call
from.
out? Wasn't he the first guy to really call out pickup as well for a lot of it? I remember
Yeah,
Chris
he
recommending
was.
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he debunked he wrote a book like debunking the seduction community and everything like that because he wasn't using so I kind of clicked despite a little bit of a language barrier, but we knew what was up. I brought him to some of my clubs on Long Island together. We went to the city together, and it was a fun experience, man. I don't know. I had a lot of respect for Sleazy.
yeah.
Probably
and
most people don't even know about this guy. I don't, but he, I recently emailed him and he wrote back to me and stuff like that. I think he's on his second marriage or something like that. But he was, yeah, he just he was a big nonverbal guy, and I was all for that, man. I seen it firsthand that it could work. You could go into these clubs and not have to really do any. There's so much you could bypass just by your physical dialogue, your presence, and cutting right to the chase. Having that ability to sniff out the girls that are DTF right away. You know what I mean? And not waste all your time sitting there trying to like buy drinks and stuff like that. He was incredible too.
That's it. That's what's up, man. So I've got a few more. So yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. He just said exactly what you said. Scotty knows what his niche is, so he's not going to waste his time on girls who aren't interested. When he sees a good target, he goes for it. I love that. I didn't even know that was
wild.
there, bro. Yeah, that's insane.
That's crazy.
But this is of course a very respected individual, and I've heard other people who are very respected say the same fucking thing, right? So when other people who've achieved like very excellent outcomes tell you Scotty's the best at picking up women I've met in this community or anywhere, this is wonderful praise indeed. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is another guy. His tips about picking up are wonderful. The way he handles dating patterns, male-female dynamic, is the way a doctor studies anatomy, and it'll make you realize picking up isn't something magical. It's something it's all about it's about being open and connecting with the girls like a normal human being. Yeah. Again, this is the gift that you get. I'm very glad I came into all my journey through Scotty and Chris, right? And learning that life is about people and it's about connection. And this is why Scotty is who he is and why he achieved the GOAT status. Because he got above all that shit. And at a certain point, you see, this is about human connection. And this is what it comes down to. Hey, Scotty, I'd like to state you're a source of inspiration for us guys. Now, you really got me motivated to have a tattoo. Yeah, I'm going to do that too. Okay, to Brian, you reading this? I want you to say you've shown me that nothing is impossible. Heading for the prime of my creeping career today, this year, and some days I feel like I don't want to leave the house. Then I read this article or watch videos of you on the streets of New York, and I get fired up. I know the only limit is how far I'm willing to go. I've spent so long operating somewhat between the confines of normal behavior, following the social structure everyone's raised to be part of. Breaking out of that world has been the most important thing I've ever done. I'm literally getting up right now to hit the pavement and bring a girl home, but I wanted to drop you a line before I left. Yeah, again, I could have wrote that. That's the same applies for me. That's one of the biggest things that I learned from you. Okay, I like this one. Damn, I can smell the pussy Scotty got over the years through my computer screen. Legend, right? So that I'm going to stop that because I've got too many of these. It could go on for the rest
That's
of the
crazy.
podcast, right? We know who's really in this world, who's been here, like who's really gone deep into this community. We know Scotty is real as they fucking come, legit as they fucking come, undeniably one of the greatest who ever did it. Yeah. And this is why many of us are grateful to have learned. Now, I'll just lead with a few things that I learned that I'll be really quick, and I want to put it over to Cam. And I want Cam to express things that he learned from you and Chris, because the definitely Cam is extremely successful in this. He's now helped so many people. He was my coach at the start of this. So what best things I learned from
that real quick before you continue, that's why GLL was like the real deal, because like look how many successful guys came out of that community. That's all you need to know. I mean, so many guys have really did something with their lives. It's crazy, bro. It's one of the only communities that have really made a lot of guys turn to self-improvement or wherever they did, or more plates, more dates. It just goes on, right?
Yeah, we live this. I'm in the trenches. I speak to these people every day. These are my brothers in arms. Yeah, they pulled me out of the fucking gutter of life, from nothing, obese, anxious, housebound, agoraphobic mess, to becoming something in this world. And it's this is why we're all indebted to you and Chris, and this is why we are here. We want to continue this legacy, because again, the people who this brought into my life were the best people I ever met. The best people I could have ever met. Some of the most incredible, most intelligent, most capable, most driven, some of the best qualities inside of them. Wonderful human beings, right? And you have that. If you have a leadership, like why all this happened is because of you and Chris, right? You guys brought all these people together.
I'll say it's worth going to, if you go look at, I'm sure you have already, Scotty, but like if you look at the run that Chris had on YouTube recently and just read the comments that people leave on Chris's videos, I like talking about you as well in the video that you did with him. It's like crazy, just like how Chris was gone for like obviously you were gone as well, but Chris disappeared off the internet for like 7 odd years too. And to just come back and immediately his like entire audience just like, oh, we're so fucking grateful for you. Like, and there's tons of comments on one of Chris's videos, I can't remember which one, where everyone was just kind of listing all the shit they've achieved, like in the time span that he had gone away. And it's a really good like it's one of the best like wholesome comment sections I've ever seen on YouTube to go and read, because you're just like all of these guys being like, yo, I did all this, I did this, I got laid, I met my wife, whatever. All these guys just talking about this crazy shit that like was facilitated by yourself and Chris, just changing people's lives with like, content online.
That's why
it's awesome, man. Yeah, I think I got to read those comments. They're really inspiring. Like, and that's why I say, like, Scotty never really died. Like, dude, even when I was away for 7 years, I had to step away. Dude, I would occasionally check my emails, and I would still get like the guy inquiring about like, dude, come back, do a one-on-one with you. I'll do this. So like, it felt good to get that, even like being that far removed from doing anything. Like, I wasn't active or anything like that. I was just obviously dealing with my own struggles at the time, and who knows where I'd be if none of that happened. But I don't want to go back, but it's like you just pick up right where you left off, you know what I mean? So right when it gets back on track, everybody's on their own path, you just hop back on.
That's it, man. These are the mindsets and the principles. Like, so the top 3 things that I learned that did change, that saved my life. I don't even know if I'd be breathing. I don't even know if I'd be alive. Honestly, I was in a bad way. The biggest things that I learned from Scotty and Chris is that firstly, success is possible for any human being in this world. Any human being who takes massive action, who stays with the process, and has focus, can achieve pretty much whatever they want to accomplish. So how did this really hit me? how did I really start to grasp this? Yeah, this is as a young man, right, struggling with a lot of anxiety, sitting there on my computer, just trying to work out how the fuck can I achieve things in my life and stop having like overwhelming, crippling self-doubt and insecurity and feel like no one's ever going to want to date me. So I'd read about Scotty and I'd read about this concept of going all in and how you actually start to achieve things in life, right? So I'd read about how Scotty, to get good with women and to just start to do away with the past and create a brighter future for himself, hit the streets of New York where all the volume is and went at it relentlessly every day, 7 days a week, not for just a few months, dude, years, showing up day after day, focusing, saying to the world, this is my dream, this is my vision, this is what I want in my heart and soul, and getting up every day and fucking grinding to close the gap between where he is and where he wants to be. These principles, right, of how to achieve your human potential, I'm so fucking glad I just saw it at that time. And I saw videos of him running around New York and I couldn't imagine it. I couldn't talk to fucking anyone without freaking out. And I'm seeing him running around New York and these really attractive women and seeing how into them they are. And honestly, when I first saw it, I was just felt so inadequate. And I felt like, what is wrong with me, man? But then I kept reading, and I understood, no, this is possible, and I can actually do the same things. Lo and behold, yes, I've done thousands and thousands of approaches, and I live this lifestyle every day, and it's great. So this was going all in. That was one of the big ones. Other two that I'm going to do pretty quickly and hand it over to Cam. Other two were importance of self-improvement. So yeah, Brian crafted a great physique, right? Fantastic physique, right? He put the work in for that. Okay, he's cultivated a great look. He put time into cultivating his image, his style, his tattooing. All of that was deliberate. He thought about it. He executed it. There was, to get to the elite in anything, to get really great places in life, it's not by accident. It doesn't show up. These guys planned it, strategically made decisions in their life, moved themselves to where the volume is, set their life up to get these outcomes, and then achieved way beyond what human beings who are just living their regular lives are going to do. So the importance of like self-improvement, right? I know right now, I to get to really where I want to get to in my goals, I'm going to continuously grind in the gym, develop way more muscle mass. I think that's really important, and that's one of the things I really admire and appreciate about Brian. He had a fantastic physique and still is a silverback gorilla of a human, and that was inspiring to me because I learned then, if I just keep working on myself, if I keep staying with this, it's just going to get better and better. And thank goodness it actually did. Literally exactly as you guys said, it went that way. The better I got, the better my vibe, social skills, every fucking thing got better. And I'm so glad that I knew that. That saved my life.
I would say the opposite, though. Like, you got to be careful with that. Is not true. Like most guys, that's the advice going that basically circulates around there now, is that if you take care of everything else, women will just kind of be a byproduct and they'll naturally come. But in your case, you're saying you went out and devoted towards, meeting women and improving your social skills and stuff like that. And you're saying everything else changed. You had more motivation for the gym. You had more motivation to make money. You had more. So I do see your point that way, but you got to be careful with the other way around, that you think you're going to get all these women as a byproduct of money and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
That's a great point. So I was getting promotions and all that. This is fucking virgin at 30. When I turned it around was I had my whole moment where I was like, yeah, I was going to turn 30. I fucking was sick I just couldn't take it anymore. Just went on GLL, just fucking begged for help, signed it with Andy and Cam. And then they made me do this. Like, I was approaching 4 hours a day. Yeah, it's that shit that term. And I did that for years, man. Years. That's what turned it around. But I was also hardcore in the gym and approaching. I worked my ass off. I stayed with it even for years. Then things got better. But yeah, exactly as you say, they have to converge. As simple as that. Yeah. Then final thing I'm going to say, abundance mentality. Abundance mentality. Yeah, dude. How this game works? Like, I get flaked on, I get rejected, I get all this shit because I live the GLL lifestyle. I go out every day. I'm doing this every day. I'm not broken up about it anymore. I'm not hurt about it. I'm not worried about it. When a girl says she don't want to see me again, I'm not worried because I can go get a fucking another one. Yeah. Abundance mentality. When you're in that headspace and you know life's a numbers game, and the more you hustle, the more you do your work, more girls you talk to, you're gonna create outcomes.
which
Knowing
is
that
directly tied to logistics. Sorry to cut you off, but that abundance mentality is directly no, excuse me, I just lost my train of thought. Is directly towards connected to your logistical situation. It really is. So great, we could have a great abundance mentality, but if we're in fucking the boondocks or something like that, in the sticks and out on acres of land, it's going to be very difficult to apply that abundance mentality in terms of whatever, even whatever you're focused on, especially in this particular instance with women. You know, you're gonna struggle, man. So that abundance mentality is directly connected to, you know, your logistics and having a big pool of women to actually go out there and practice with, you know.
Cam's loving you saying that because exactly he's the one that coached me to do that. Like he told me to move from where I was, which is a small town. He got me in a major town. He got me going around where there's endless women. He's a classic GLR guy. He knew all this, man.
I just wrote an ebook about like how to get
And
laid
there's
if you're.
I,
I just wrote. I
I
was gonna say, I
would
just wrote an ebook about getting laid
let
when
me
you're
just finish real
inexperienced.
quick. Okay,
Oh,
go.
sorry, go Scotty. Yeah, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I could never relate to that because I was very blessed or fortunate to come from a town in which I started in a position of a great logistical situation. Like, so I didn't know the flip side of that. So for the audience
Yeah.
out there, for the guys who are really not good situations, I give you permission to, like, go, leave, man, do something, just like do whatever it takes, as hard as it may be. Like, look at a guy like Chris. You could take a lot of inspiration from him. He, you know, was in law school and stuff like that, and he left and, you know, had a bunch of roommates in Hollywood in the pickup mansion. So, like, that's a prime example of a guy who turned it around and went to the best situation possible. Even if you have to shack up with a few roommates, just put yourself in the best possible situations. I can't really relate to that. Now I am, because situation has changed and I went into a much worse situation logistically. But, like, man, you know, for a young guy starting out, I didn't know I stepped in shit as far as, like, being in a great city, one of the best cities you could be in to learn, you know, game and pick up. So yeah, carry on, Cam. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no worries, man. It's like these Zoom calls, mate. We're all going to talk over each other a lot. So I wrote a book for Andy recently because he wanted something a bit more, just like trying to consolidate all of our like basic advice into one ebook. I dedicated an entire chapter to location because I think logistics on their own deserve a lot of explanation to guys who don't understand maybe why they're not getting laid. I think I said basically if you live, especially if you're like traveling to a city to approach, it's all well and good telling guys to go to the volume, but if they're pitching to a girl, you've got to travel an hour and a half to see me, or I've got to go an hour and a half to see you, it becomes a little bit difficult in the aftermath when you've got contact. So I basically just said to guys, and I think Andy did the same thing. Like, Andy moved to the center of Melbourne. And then for me, I moved to London the first time when I was more serious. And I basically always pitch myself in cities now, like, that have at least 1.5, 2 million people. Like, I just think otherwise it just makes everything a lot more difficult. And it's not that it's impossible. It's just that, you know, we don't want to be stressing about logistics all the time in terms of like, how do I get this girl an hour back to my place and shit like that? You know, it's just not that fun. I know you do have the history of the carpools though, which is not something I've ever personally done. But there's the fun stories I read about you pulling to the car. I don't know if that was because you had bad logistics or something, or it's just something you wanted to do.
Well, no, yeah, it's not that I had bad logistics, but I spent a lot of my time gaming in Manhattan, so I was actually on Long Island. So Yeah, like getting girls into your car as quickly as possible, or trying to seal the deal there, where most men would probably overlook that and not even consider that an option. For me, it was a very real option, and it's just a matter of if you're comfortable with that and congruent with that, and that's your like the girl will be cool with it. You'd be surprised at how many girls are okay with something like that, fucking in a car or whatever. As long as you're cool with it, a lot of our limiting beliefs are coming up here, man. So it depends on what you know what you own and what you're congruent with, what you feel comfortable doing, and the girl feels that immediately. You're the one taking charge. You're the one leading. You're making all the advancements. So why wouldn't that be an option? A lot of guys don't even wouldn't view that as an option. So yeah, sometimes I wouldn't want to drive 35 minutes or an hour home, with the girl. The less time that you have between the initial pickup to the time you're sealing the deal, the better.
Yeah.
So while the temperature's hot.
We
So
advised 15 minutes. I don't know if that's roughly what you would say as well. If the trip back to yours is longer than 15, that's typically
yeah,
the problem area about for time wise. I've noticed if I've got like an Uber ride with a girl and we go past that, she starts asking where I live and stuff like that. That's like roughly
yeah,
about the time spot where she starts asking those questions. It's like, where are we there yet? Do you live nearby? That kind of stuff starts coming up if the journey back is too long.
yep. Yeah, it's a big deal. So actually, with that being said, because Long Island was really good too, it was one of my big hunting grounds as well. So, but the city was obviously better. So it wasn't a perfect logistical situation. I would probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10 because, still fair, still good enough to get to the city. Still a lot of women there. Like a lot of guys don't ever even experience a place like Manhattan or Long Island in itself had a lot going on. On every night during the week, you can go to a nightclub, or they had a lot of nice malls. So Long Island itself was pretty good as well. So
Sweet, man. I would love to go and try out Manhattan. I've only been to Brooklyn for like a night out. I went to Dumbo. I was only there for like 4 days though. So I do like Williamsburg. I don't know if you ever went out there. That's like the hippie area.
uh,
That's like the hipster area.
yeah, right around the time I left or whatever, it started to become like the mini Manhattan. Yeah, it started to be like a hipster, more street traffic, more little bars and clubs were just kept popping. It's just grown and grown ever since I left back in 2016. So yeah, no, it
Yeah,
wasn't actually one of my main hunting grounds at the time, Brooklyn, but now it's blown up. Yeah, it's definitely
everyone
blown
wants to
up.
live there now. Like my friends are all I got friends moving to Brooklyn. Ravi, where did you stay?
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
But
Okay.
but I did spend time in Williamsburg actually. I was hanging out in Williamsburg and I had about an hour-long phone call with Brian, funnily enough, and it was a very cool location. Definitely when me and Brian do Scotty GLL boot camp over there, we're going to spend a lot of time there too.
Do you want me
The cool
to?
part
I
about
was
Brooklyn now is that there's two kava bars over there. And when me and Ravi
Kava.
linked up, yeah, there's two kava bars that opened up in Brooklyn, which is
That
cool.
shit's not. I don't think that shit's. I know that shit's legal wherever I've lived except for now. Like it was never legal in the UK and it was never legal in Australia. So I've never got to try it. But I remember you recommending it so long ago when you were talking to Chris or something about it. You're like, yeah, Kava's legit. And I just remember you saying
I
that. I
wonder
was
if
like,
that's the
yeah.
supplement. Yeah, I wonder if that's the supplement Ravi was referring to when he said that me and him were speaking on a podcast about how we were taking something and it was like making, bringing out the best in us. And so I wonder if that's a supplement or were you referring to a bodybuilding supplement? I'm not quite sure what we were talking about, but yeah, kava and kratom. I definitely like. Here we go. Right here, we got a little
Yeah.
advertisement. Happy Hippo Herbals. Click my link and buy some kratom, man. They also sell kava, but yeah, I'm a big proponent of it. Um, I've really tried a lot of drugs, dude, but this is obviously the safest alternative out there. It's not as powerful as certain things, but it definitely, you know, relaxes you, and it could be a way better alternative than alcohol because guys tend to associate alcohol with going out and picking up women. They're linked tremendously to. So
I would
we were
might go and find some because basically everything is legal in Vancouver now. So I can go and try and find some. I live up in Canada But in BC, they've like decriminalized all drugs up to like 5 grams of possession or something. So you can buy crazy shit. Like you can buy LSD and peyote from shops in Vancouver. I don't know how legal it is. It's like super gray area. Someone was just openly selling heroin at one point as well, but the police did shut that down. But yeah, we can carry up to 2 grams of any substance anywhere. It's pretty mental. It's like Portugal. They did the same thing in Portugal, like decriminalized every drug, just to see if it works.
What about Amsterdam? Is
So
Amsterdam like that as
Amsterdam is
well?
weirdly not. Amsterdam gets a rep for being decriminalized, but they've only got weed and shrooms. So like if you carry
Okay.
coke and MD, you can get in bad trouble with the cops. But yeah, it's like also where all of the drugs are shipped to Europe. So they have everything you'd ever need in Amsterdam as well. It's just that you will get kicked out for coke. I won't get kicked out of a club here if I've got cocaine. Like they'll just be like, oh, whatever, because it's legal. So it's kind of strange. I can't walk in. So I walk into a club, I can't have a bottle of beer in my hand, but I could have 2 grams of coke, and they wouldn't have a problem with it. It's so fucking
Wait,
weird.
Amsterdam. Wait a minute. Hold on. Backtrack a second. Amsterdam's legalized. I mean, it made alcohol illegal.
No. So you can't carry beer into clubs because of licensing laws. That's the only reason.
Oh, okay.
So like
I got you.
it's like trying to carry a flask in, but if I carried in coke, it'd be fine. So it's like it's a really weird situation now in Vancouver where it's just like I can go any club with like heroin, like they won't say shit to me. Well, obviously I don't have
That's
heroin.
wild.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. That is wild, man. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
And Canada, I didn't know you were in Canada, man. I thought you were near Andy. But yeah, Canada has this reputation for being like so liberal and everything like that. But there's like a feud in Canada, right? There's like you got the Toronto aspect who's real, really, really strict when it comes to things like that. Kratom's like illegal for the most part. I remember I was trying to a client wanted me to go work with them, and we were having issues with, getting Kratom over and stuff like that. But like
yeah, BC is
Vancouver, I
different.
guess, and yeah, Quebec, I heard it's like, like you're saying, a free for all.
BC is like because the BC is more like Pacific Northwest, and if you go to like Seattle and Oregon and San Francisco, they have really like loose they're really loose on drugs because like they have like the amnesty and stuff for like if you do it on the streets, so for like the homeless people. So I think BC, British Columbia, just acts more like the rest of the West Coast than it does the rest of Canada. I think they have. I think this is a trial. I don't think they're going to keep the decriminalization is just a trial period at the moment. So it might stick, it might not. But while I've been living here, it's been going on. So it's very interesting to see what's happening. I don't know.
What made you move to Canada, bro? I thought you were with like kind of with Andy in Melbourne or whatever.
I had to leave Australia because of COVID. So I'm from the UK originally. I had to leave Australia during COVID because my visa ran out, and then I wanted to get out. Ravi's probably spoken about how like there's something about the UK where there's like I don't know, there's like a lack of what's the word? There's a lack of general like ambition and feeling in the UK. I just don't know how to describe it, but there's like a vibe of everyone who ends up in like self-improvement is trying to get out of the UK, and it's a pretty common thing amongst a lot of the guys who do go down our route that we basically want to leave. With the exception of London, there isn't really a great place to meet girls either. Like I do think Manchester is all right. Some of the other cities are all right, but everyone I know who lives in the UK and is like a newbie, so someone who hasn't got a lot of experience, the only real good option is London. And the problem with that is obviously London's incredibly expensive. It's like New York. It's like you're telling like a 19, 20-year-old or someone in their mid-20s to like cough up enough cash to live in central London is very like difficult. It's a difficult sell. So it's actually easier for a lot of guys to leave and do like the visas to like Australia or do the visas to Canada. So I tell younger guys to follow my path and just go travel because it's going to be a lot easier for you outside of the UK. There's many reasons for that. I'm sure you've gamed in London. I'm sure, I don't know what your experiences were like in terms of like what the city is like and everything. I wasn't
overly. Yeah, I mean, London seemed cool. I mean, I wasn't overly impressed. I'm going back 12 years ago already. It seemed like a pretty hopping city. I mean, there was a wide range of people. It was a lot of traffic. I was pretty impressed. There was like the boot camp was too filled, in my honest opinion. Like it was like the coach to student ratio was not good. That's a whole nother story to begin with. So I didn't, get a chance to like focus too much on myself. I was so concerned. I was a beginner coach, so I was like so consumed with all these students. So it was kind of crazy. But Yeah, I would be interested to go back for sure. Seems like a pretty cool place to game.
Yeah, I read it. I read it. If I end up with making enough money, I might consider having a place there, so and just kind of going back to it regularly. But that's like a future dream for like where I'm going to be moving around. My heart is in traveling, to be honest. Like that's why I'm
You
here.
love
Like I always
traveling,
want to
yeah?
live abroad. Yeah, I always want to live abroad. I always want to keep. I'm always like next horizon kind of guy. Like if I stay somewhere 6 months, I start getting a bit itchy about like needing to go somewhere else, needing to see another city. So that's like my thing, really.
Well, hey man, you're always welcome to come through and come to Florida. Um, it's not the best
Yeah,
place
man.
in the world, but I am going to explore a little bit further down south. I'm going to go to probably Fort Lauderdale. You know, the
Are you going to
furthest south,
Miami?
yeah, either Miami or Lauderdale are like probably the two best cities to game in
So,
Florida, to be honest with you.
but I never gamed in Miami, but because I was with that girl that I spoke about earlier, the one that like the hot girl who was out of my league kind of girl, as we did a holiday in Miami, and that was like the last time we were ever together. So I would like be good to go back there and like banish some demons, like just in that
Yeah, like
area.
yo, likewise, man. Dude, we have very similar like path or something because same thing. I ended up going down there to like hang out with this girl, and it really kind of went south, and I didn't get a chance to really like enjoy it and stuff like that. I didn't stay long. It wasn't a big enough sample size for me to make a fair assessment of South Beach. You know what I mean? So I'd be very interested to go back.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good spot though, for sure. Sorry, just to get back to where Ravi was, I think he was asking me for like what I learned from you and Chris. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I know.
Are
Yeah.
we circling back around, Ravi?
Yeah, yeah, because like it's kind of funny how there's a lot of like synergy between your story, Cam, and actually Scotty's. So that's I just wanted to say that's kind of crazy. But then there's a lot of that with GLL, right? A lot of these guys have
Yeah,
similarities.
you
So
see
it'd be
patterns
cool
of
for you
guys.
to.
What made guys go all in can be quite common amongst certain guys. Like, if you listen to, so just to, I don't know how much Scotty is familiar with Caleb Jones, who's another content creator in the space. He's a bit older, so it was maybe more common in his era. But he also didn't lose his virginity till late, and he's the only other person I've ever heard talk about like that, like delayed because of sexual anxiety thing. So that's really interesting. I know obviously Ravi's got his own stories on this, just like what his 20s were like in terms of like, having the same kind of problems. But yeah, I think it's good for guys to share this stuff on like in content, if I'm honest. Like I want more guys to talk openly. Like obviously, first of all, you have to find guys who are willing to go on camera. Although Andy's done such a good job of getting guys to do. I don't know if you've watched any of his interviews, Scotty, but Andy has like a library of like just interviewing guys in the community. Just like it's crazy
Mhm.
how he's managed to like get them to open up and just say all the stuff they have. And like when I don't know, I remember 5 years ago, guys were terrified to ever like open their personal lives up on camera and like talk about it. And now it just seems to be a bit more open.
Yeah, Andy's stuff is very wholesome. Like I really do. There's so much negativity and toxicity on the internet. Like his stuff is like a breath of fresh air, man. I got to be honest. So he steers clear from any of that stuff, and it's just no nonsense. It doesn't seem like he's very upfront when it comes to his motives and everything like that. I find a very like wholesome vibe when with his content for sure.
We did take that lead from you and Chris, I feel though, to some degree. Like not maybe not the same vibe, because I think you and Chris had the thing that we'll circle back because this does lead into what I learned from you guys. Like
Yeah.
you and Chris had like this obviously like the cool vibe. You had like this whole thing of like we are just cool dudes who get laid a lot. That was basically if I can summarize the pitch at the beginning, that was like what it was. And like
Yeah.
I think seeing you guys told me that was possible to be that within the pickup world. Because other than you guys, all I got to see was like Mystery and like Style, who and like was the guy who wrote the game, who frankly looked like, you know what I mean? You didn't look at them and think, yo, I want to be those guys, even if they were capable of like getting laid and like whatever. Whereas like you and
I
Chris
wouldn't
was like,
say so far yeah, go ahead. Like I don't say that we were just normal guys, but kind of normal. We didn't, like I said, that's why I would go to a lot of these boot camps and stuff, whether as a student or a teacher, and guys would constantly come up to me like, "What the hell are you doing here, dude? Like, what are you doing?" I kind of stuck out like a sore thumb when I would go to these like little boot camps and stuff, because I wouldn't say I'm a natural, but I just I never like formally studied it. I never um got too mixed up in the lines. Even when I worked for the company, that's why it wasn't really at the end of the day a good fit with me in this company, because dude, I'm not going to sit there and teach somebody else's product and I don't even, do it myself. I am the product. It's like, either you want to, come with us, I'll teach you this, the way I live, and that's it. I'm not going to teach somebody else's system. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's where we kind of had a falling out. But like, you're right. I wouldn't say we related to the normal guy, but a lot more than sometimes the mystery stuff. Like, that was, a lot of people got that like weird, we have to do the peacocking thing and stand out and all this stuff, and the PUA terminology and stuff like that. We were just normal dudes for the most part, who just maximized like our looks and stuff like that. And I guess just took action, and we did have that in our background, that we got to see both sides of it. So we took the bad, and we took the good from the stuff, and we try to just get rid of all the bad shit that they did,
Yeah, I'd say
that they
like
did preach.
I would say like what I found about you and Chris was you were more aspirational to me than the pickup artists were. Like, I would rather be jacked, like with an edgy, cool, like masculine look, than be dressing like a Vegas show magician, like Mystery. Like that was kind of the sale. Like,
Yeah.
that's obviously an extreme example either way. But then there was also like the fact that you guys didn't use the jargon. Like, that was another thing. Like the fact that you guys like tried to normalize, like, we're just talking to girls. That was like a big one when Chris was like, yeah, we're just talking to girls. We're connecting with another human being. And that's like, I think where Andy's really tried to take it on with is that we are always trying to avoid using, because jargon is, at the end of the day, it's like an in-out group terminology stuff. I think everyone's aware of this. It like creates like an in-group versus people who don't understand it. Whereas if the way Chris wrote his articles, and I think he got it from you, and you guys probably agreed this together, it's like, we can explain all of this in normal language. There's no need to like redefine the language to explain how to get laid. Like that's like a huge step forward. And that was so refreshing. Like, because so many people want to create like code words and stuff for like these things. And you guys are just like explaining it like you're just touching a girl's hand. You're just talking to a girl.
Yeah.
You're going up to a girl and being direct and open with her. It's like none of that was like difficult to understand, or like I didn't have to get a glossary definition terms to understand what you guys were talking about.
Exactly. And like, for example, like, guys since the dawn of time have been trying to impress women to some degree, and they would use, instead of impress women, it's like, oh, I hit her with a DHV spike and stuff like that. Like, it was like pretty crazy, bro. Like the terminology, you're right, it needed its own fucking dictionary. So
yeah.
yeah.
And those terms impress men. That's the thing as well. Those are like terms to impress men, not women. It's like I meant my energy going towards getting laid. If that was like really what I was fun. The other thing I think is like got the social freedom aspect. Like, no one really like, they always talked about approach anxiety in like pickup, but like I think what they talked about was like, oh, we're just going to send you out there with these pickup lines and eventually you'll get over it. Whereas I think you and Chris realized, one, social freedom was so fucking impressive to girls, as in like I think you went really far with that, like probably further than anyone ever did in terms of like the stories. And then, but also like how much of a problem approach anxiety is for some men, including myself. Like, I still to this day still have it. Like, I have to like rev myself up to get over it still. It's not like it ever died fully. And I think Andy says the same. Like, I think me and him were talking about stuff like, what are we afraid of? We did like some kind of video, like, what are we still afraid of? And we both said like, we still have approach anxiety. Like, we've done it enough times that we can force ourselves to go and approach, but it's still there. It's still something that like catches us in the gut or whatever before we go up and talk to a girl. I don't have it with like, oh, sorry, Jan.
No, I would tend to agree with that for sure, man. I would tend to agree with that. I don't know if it ever fully goes away, and I don't even think that should be the like goal for most guys. It should be like, have the ability to regulate it and not let it like completely own you, man. Don't let your anxiety like totally dictate everything you're going to do, and there's got to be something in us that can override, like, that committee or that voice that says, oh, forget it, it's over, I'm done, I'm going to go home, I can't walk up, or I just got fucking blown out, whatever. Like, there's got to be something within us that just can override that. But I don't know, like, you're right, I don't know if that ever really goes away, especially I say this often, and because momentum and stuff like that gets poo-pooed a lot in these circles, and I think it's a real thing, because if you haven't spoken to anyone in a while and you haven't socialized in general, dude, that's the point. The main part of anxiety is usually at the beginning when you first go out. Like it will definitely like go away as you continue to approach. That's what I noticed. It tends to definitely go away, but when you're totally cold, ice cold, yeah, that's when it's like just to get the ball rolling, you know, that's when it's very much prevalent, you know.
Yeah, and you guys were like the first guys to be like, use crutches as well. I remember that, like, use Carver, use Kratom, use Phenibut, have wings that like are gonna, you guys understand each other's anxiety and you're gonna push each other, that kind of shit as well. Like, especially just the fact that you were like, I think Chris even said, if you need to, do a couple of shots of vodka, because no one, I think that's in one of his articles. He was like, fuck it, why not? Like, if you need a crutch, you need a crutch for the start. Like, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. I obviously agree with that. I think I took it to an absolute extreme, but don't forget, I got into the pickup community and I was already kind of struggling with some sort of substances, and alcoholism kind of ran in my family. And I started at a very, very young age. I was like 12 or something. I was getting drunk, but like all through middle school and high school, I was dealing with all sorts of substance issues. So that just played into everything, whether it was bodybuilding and then PUA. And then I eventually took time to get sober and stuff like that and got away from the game. But yeah, so I wouldn't say that I wouldn't attribute it to PUA brought the, you know, maniac out, or like maybe an alcoholic, or by any means. I think it was a genetic thing that I dealt with at a very young age. And you know, it ran in my family. Everybody in my family's, you know, dealt with alcoholism and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't discourage guys by thinking that by taking some shots or whatever, using some of these alternative remedies is going to lead you down a very bad path. I would definitely argue against that, and it's a much bigger issue than just that. You know, if you're triggered to take a couple shots when you go out and meet women, and you're going down a really bad path with that, then I think you've had that prior to that. You know, that wasn't the one that like set you off. But that's just my take on the situation.
I would
Nice.
agree with that. I was drinking a lot in my early 20s to approach, because I had such severe like anxiety and low self-esteem, which was the real problem. And now I haven't really drank for a long time. Like I certainly haven't been drunk for like, I don't even know when the last time was. Be talking years and years. And I can just be with people without any issues, because I did deal with the underlying like things that were the real problem, like taking care of those things. But Cam, you were in the flow of talking about just things that you learned. Did you want to go with anywhere else with that?
We will be here forever if I have to
Okay,
like go
cool.
through the list. I
Yeah.
would say that I don't think I touched on looks yet. I think you did though, so it's all right. But I think what the message I got from you and Chris, Scotty, was that there is all the stuff that we talk about, like all the approaching, all that stuff, it works. We know it works, but there is a looks bar that you're going to have to reach as well. Like there's like these things are in tandem, and like it's going to make your life a lot easier, and two, if you go past a certain threshold, you basically open the door to so many more girls who will be interested in you. So it's like a case of, here is all the stuff we know works with girls, but also here is all the stuff you're going to have to get. You get in the gym, you're going to do some look stuff, you're going to have to get your style in order. It was like, there was no bullshit on that front. Whereas, you know, obviously due to marketing reasons, I think a lot of pickup is like, it's hampered by the marketing and like the whole like, oh, we can give you everything you want without the stuff you don't like. And the stuff that guys, I guess, don't like is like, you know, the years in the gym it will take to build a good physique, the effort it takes to get into your appearance, all that stuff. And yeah, you guys are just like, nah, like this stuff helps. We've obviously always focused on our looks, and it's helped us get a lot of girls. If you have good looks, you barely need game sometimes as well. Like you said, like the first two girlfriends you got was like pure looks, and there are going to be girls who just like, I've had girls like walk up to me at parties and like getting approached. It doesn't happen all the time. Obviously, I never tell guys like, oh, if you get yourself a good looking, you'll get approached, but it does happen occasionally, and girls will take more of an initiative towards you if you are good looking to them.
Yeah. And actually that could have a reverse effect sometimes. If you are a good looking guy or whatever, like you do not need a lot of this stuff. And I think those 2 relationships I had going in to my first boot camp or whatever, it did give me a little bit of confidence because I knew girls gave me a lot of signals. Like I said, especially girls in high school, they're like overt with when it comes to it, especially if you're in like a very popular circle, like it's in that experimental phase and girls are like open about things. And yeah, I knew I could, I knew girls were attracted to me and into me. I had to get over that, like that sexual anxiety aspect and be willing to just like whip out my dick. Like that would be like that was like tremendous progress. So like I said, when I heard guys like the Pheromone kid doing that, I was doing that myself just to get over that sexual anxiety aspect. Though actually I take that back. At that point in time, come to think of it now as I retrace my steps, the first 2 girls I was out of that sexual anxiety part. I already had a lot of sexual experience under my belt just from those 2 girls. So I just took it to another level when I heard, the Pheromone interviews and stuff like that, the things that were possible. And again, he was so nonchalant, his verbiage and stuff. He was just, you knew he was an outsider and he wasn't part of the community because it was, dude, when I would listen to him, he would just sound like it was just a breath of fresh air because up until that point as well, I was, littered with all the PUA jargon and stuff like that. I'm like, this dude is, I don't know. I like this guy. He's just speaking like a normal Joe, and he was just pulling a lot of ass.
This stuff is an equation and it's solvable. People don't have to suffer from scarcity, lack of options. It's not a good situation to go through in life, not having options and scarcity. And in this time in the world now, we're living in a loneliness epidemic. We're living in a situation where in the world relationships aren't great. And we as men are problem solvers and we choose to not accept. I simply demand a good life. I just don't accept shit. I don't accept mediocrity. So we know, listening to what we've shared here today, there are ways that people can totally level the playing field. Looks and then taking massive action. Working on yourself and then going onto the streets like I do every day and approaching and taking action. Now, on the subject of looks, clearly Cam's someone who advises people and has like he's made a really great contribution actually to looks. I think he's one of the best people doing this right now, and certainly like people to start out, right? He's got a whole framework. He can take any guy like and give them a good understanding of how they can start to look attractive and look like they get laid. So Cam's definitely someone who we can draw on for a source of inspiration and also knowledge here. But then another interesting subject to explore is Scotty's look, right? So Scotty went with a lot of tattooing, and that is something that I'm going to explore as well myself. I'm going to get myself some tattoos next year. But like you cultivated a very specific look, Brian, as you went through your journey, right? You're the muscular dude who's got tattoos. So Cam talked a lot when he was coaching me about how I needed to get edge, how I needed to not look like a nice guy and develop edge. Yeah. So I'd love for you to discuss like how not to look like a nice guy, and for you guys to just explore that subject a little would be very valuable.
Can I just get the background quickly? Because I was going to say that, like, yeah, I have been a stylist now, like in terms of like in the community for like 2-3 years now, and a lot of it came from like Chris's, like a lot of what I learned came from Chris's original style articles, which I don't know if you ever saw these, Scotty, but he like basically made style guides, that were very much centered on what you guys had decided, which was like, I guess the edge. And I never heard anyone really talk about like edge before. And it's really been like a core of everything I've like advised in terms of all of my clients. Like we try and get more, like, just get you away from like the button up, nice dude look that I don't know how many guys you've ever spoken to about dating who like when they went to dates when they were younger, they would do the whole like look like an office worker shtick with like rather than trying to look as nice as them, like nice in the way their mum thinks would look nice. And I was like, no, you got to go for something that'll actually like look at what girls actually like and dress like that potentially would probably help you a lot better. And like, yeah, that commonality that I think you and Chris found, it was like, you know, that edgier look really works like well for girls.
Yeah, definitely, man. And first and foremost, yeah, I would attribute some of my style like to actually my father, believe it or not. He was a very good role model for style. He dressed well, and he was really he had a lot of money, and he was really into fashion. My dad was one of those guys, so um, you know, a lot of his stuff was very high end stuff at the time. It was like, you know, diesel jeans, and you know, True Religion was very popular. Like, dude, my dad always took care of himself and dressed really, really, really well. You know, he was real into really nice watches. He collected a lot of nice watches. Um, so yeah, I'll attribute a lot of that to my pop. And whenever we had, like, you know, Christmas, or he was giving gifts away, or we go on, you know, trips together, we'd spend a lot of time in malls, and my dad would always buy the best of the best. And so I kind of, you know, followed his lead. And yeah, so shout out to him. I attribute that to him. Also, some other, I guess, guys that inspired me were, believe it or not, I was a big wrestling fan growing up, and one of my guys that I really just like resonated with his character and everything was Raven. Actually, I used to watch ECW wrestling, and Raven was really into that '90s grunge look, and he wasn't dressed as a wrestler. He just would come out in like a leather jacket and fucking t-shirts with bands on it and stuff like that, and you know, ripped up jeans sometimes. I just thought the guy was like the coolest fucking thing ever. So yeah, so those were two guys that definitely
Did,
helped me out in the
did
fashion
you like
department big time.
did you like Pillman as well? If you like Raven, Brian Pillman, he was the
Yeah,
other guy that
yeah,
looked like that.
yeah. I like Brian Pillman a lot. He was short lived though, correct? Didn't he die
Yeah,
out of fairly, like, right in his prime or something? Yeah, Brian Pillman was the man. But you know, ECW was known for that. They were like you know, a very edgy wrestling company that was like always push the limits, and a lot of their wrestlers would actually not wear like their traditional wrestling attire. You know, a lot of these guys would come out in like ripped up jeans and shit like that. So yeah,
Sandman,
I was a
the Sandman coming through the crowd. I remember that
yeah,
shit.
right.
Yeah,
I remember, you remember all this stuff, dude. Yeah, I was a huge ECW fan, to the point where, like, one of my birthdays, we took a limo to an ECW event, me and all my buddies, and it was a fucking blast, dude. We would go to the conventions and everything, but huge Raven fan. Uh, him and my pop, like I said, I definitely I would say they put me ahead of the eight ball compared to some normal guys like in my high school and stuff like that. That no one had, not a lot of guys had style. Like, I always had the nicest fucking clothes in high school and shit like that, like True Religion. And then I dated, like I said, my second girlfriend. She was really into fashion as well, and she was like my sugar mama at the time. She was 31, I was 21 years old, and she
Mm.
had a lot of money, dude. And she bought me a lot of shit, dude. She bought me like a ton of Affliction t-shirts when they were really popular at the time. Uh, she's the one who kind of inspired me. So shout out to her if she's out there. To actually get tattoos, you know, she was like really into following bands and stuff like that. And she was like, I love tattoos on guys. And that's all I fucking had to hear, bro. Once I heard that she wanted that, I was like, I got like my arm tattoos first, and then we broke up, I to the absolute extreme. I don't know where it came from, but I just went, you know, I got my first few tattoos with her, but once we broke up, as I guess my heart was broken. I just like, I'm gonna fucking go all out in this area too. I'm like, I'm gonna take it to the absolute extreme. So, do I
Scotty,
regret
can I
some of
ask?
the face stuff? Maybe,
Yeah, can I ask you
maybe a
about the
little
face?
bit,
Because
but
like
I mean, yeah,
the
go ahead.
face, the face back in the day when you were getting the face tattoos, it wasn't like the Post Malone era where it's like nowadays it's not normal to have a face tattoo, but it's way more normal than it was in like whenever you got those face tattoos. Yeah, like did it really like mark you out in terms of like having that kind of stuff, or did you live in an area where that was like a little bit more common?
No, it wasn't, man. It really wasn't. It was actually very difficult at the time to find an artist who was actually even willing to tattoo my face. That's
Jesus.
how different times have
Wow, that's
changed.
crazy.
I swear to God, dude. Like, a lot of the artists would refuse to do it for me. I was a young 21-year-old kid, and they were like, dude, I only had like my forearms tatted at the time, and I got my neck done. I went right for all the visible spots like a knucklehead. I just so then yeah, dude, well, you're right. Now it's way more common, but especially in New York City, even I would say that was a very edgy city, so it kind of was okay, a little bit more accepted, but even to this day, man, like Central Florida, where I am now, I still get girls like wondering if I'm a criminal and stuff like that. And yeah, I get disqualified pretty quickly from a lot of girls, especially in Florida, dude. So yeah, this look uh, goes hand in hand pretty much with where you are and what your location and demographic of what type of people are you going to be there. Like Lower East Side of Manhattan, it's definitely a little bit more accepted. You know what I mean, or the Village or something like that. But yeah, it still gets looked upon differently depending on where you are.
Yeah, we didn't mention,
and we're in 2023.
We did not mention screening in our stuff that we learned from Chris and Scotty, but obviously screening is such a big part of the philosophy. And like you have a full-on screening tool like directly on your face, if you know what I mean? Like in terms of like what you said about disqualifying girls. Like it's actually one of the more hardcore things I've ever seen in terms of like following that philosophy. And obviously that, it's you. So you'd have to be like all in hardcore with any philosophy. And like,
yeah,
man.
I mean, listen, like, no, I said they disqualify you. Like, I mean, and so good riddance, basically. But
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it is.
That's
what
I mean,
man.
though. Like me and Andy are focused on. Andy and I are very much focused on trying to get girls who aren't interested to not even fucking talk to us. Like if that makes sense. So like with like especially with online dating, like Andy goes all in with having like the pictures of like the girls in leashes and stuff, like on his like me and his girlfriend in a board. Like I'm in a couple, we do BDSM. So he wants, in the same way that like to a degree, like you don't want the girls, who actually don't want to fucking talk to you over a face tattoo. You want the girls who are like basically already willing to go away with you because of it. You know what I mean? So it's like
for sure.
Yeah, I like that. It's like passive.
And I got to be honest, dude. Like, listen. Yeah, I mean, I got into the pickup in 2008 was my first boot camp or whatever, and I would say for the first 2 years, I didn't have a face tattoo, and I was, doing a lot of pickup. So, the things I noticed, the change wasn't drastic at all. So from 2011, 2012 to, the end of GLL when I left, it was probably like 2014, 2015. There wasn't that's actually my peak years. I was just stacking up a ton of numbers, rotations with the face tattoo. So no, it did not hinder my results whatsoever.
Yeah,
like you said, maybe I could have gotten more, but dude, I had more for my lifetime and for some other guy's lifetime as well. So
that's what we try to explain to guys. Like we try to explain to guys that screening doesn't mean you'll get less, if that makes sense. Like having girls, like screening so you get rid of the girls who aren't worth your time means you actually have more time for the girls who are, if that makes sense. I don't think that, like in theory. And so like you have a more active, abundant sex life, even though you have like screened out a shit ton of girls. Yeah. That's like the whole point of it. It's more about where your energy goes than it is about attracting the largest number of girls. I hope that comes across and makes sense.
It does make sense, man, because this is a lifestyle choice at the end of the day, to choose success and to choose abundance and not accept mediocrity. So one of the things that
and your face, I'm sorry, Robbie, I'll give you a second, but your face is like a light, and that's where, if it's radiant and smiling and your teeth are clean and everything and they're white, that's what's going to draw the woman, honestly. If their eyes are just, if you got a sad looking face or you're not there, I don't care if you have face tattoo, no face tattoo, like you're that's the difference maker right there. Because even when I had the face tattoo, like girls would constantly give me, when I would open them up, they'd be like, you have a really nice smile, or your teeth are beautiful, or you this or that, you have nice eyelashes. So girls are still drawn to the vibrancy of your face and what you're presenting them. They can overlook the face tattoo, even if it's not their ideal, or like, who's this fucking guy, or they may have questions or whatnot. But depending on what type of face you are, if you're smiling and you take care of yourself and you got a good smile and good teeth, and that's where their attention actually is drawn, and they can actually overlook stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's certainly something. If you ever study under Brian, if you do coaching with Brian, if you come to one of his boot camps, you can see all these little things he's doing. I mean, even in the infield I recorded and put up recently, as he's building comfort, he does flash a smile. He does make good, meaningful eye contact. He does appear really warm, and these subtle layers are how he opens the women up and creates lovely experiences for both parties concerned, and puts a massive smile on their face and brings them into a really joyful experience. So these subtle things, right, how to facilitate human connection, like face tattoos or not, man. What's coming from the core is our human essence and the love and beauty that is within us, right? And it does get transmitted through these
And that's
subtle
another
things.
good thing while we're on style. I think girls love the massive contrast, or they're intrigued by the contrast, because they may think a criminal, this guy's this, why, angry. So meanwhile, he's got very, great hygiene, straight teeth, white teeth, like there's a contrast there. He's got a really nice watch or chains or jewelry, like that stuff. They'll be like, whoa, this guy is not like a incoherent fucking criminal, you know what I mean? So they could pick up on that pretty quickly. So I think girls love the contrast as well.
I
Cam,
really
do you
think
remember?
like
Sorry, I'm just gonna say, because you'd know this, Cam. Remember a classic article called "Mr. Juxtaposition" about
yeah,
how
that's what I
you
was thinking of.
yeah.
There's a crazy good article Chris wrote about this, where he was like, you want to be a fuckboy, you want to be a completely tattooed fuckboy who can play the piano. That was like his example.
Right. Oh,
You
that's
know?
cool. So see, I didn't even know about that, but like that's
Yeah.
what I mean. I know for sure from experience that if you could give girls the contrast of it, that's not all you are, and see through that, they might be their initial in a half a second, oh, this guy a thug or a criminal, but like wow, this guy is articulate, and you know what I mean, takes care of himself, obviously, dresses really well, takes care of great hygiene, smells good, things like that. That makes a girl really, really fascinated and intrigued, you know what I mean? So that's a good article.
Yeah, I
This
used
is.
to.
I'm
Sorry,
just
Brian,
gonna
can I just
say,
make a
like,
point
this
on?
because I'm really like I'm really happy we're having this discussion, man, and like all the legacy is being continued. But like, it's so fascinating to me that so many of these things, like Mr. Juxtaposition's a thing, it's an idea in this community, in this space, right? People consider Scotty like the reason Chris wrote that article, right? And for that concept, like, and he doesn't even really like, he wasn't even aware about that article, right? But it's kind of based in massive part on him. So many of the ideas that we have in this community are based on Brian,
Yeah,
right?
we said before, didn't we, that like a lot of what made Good Looking Loser great, and we didn't realize it at the time until Chris told us, is that most of that blog was him like deconstructing what made Scotty so successful, what made you so successful, Brian, was like it was like Chris was like the guy who understood everything, observing what you were doing. And that was a lot of
And
what his blog was.
yes, and another thing that stood out with Chris, and why it was such a unique platform, and why it kind of like a website, and why it took off, was that, like you said, as opposed to what else was out there at the time, was like, mainstream pickup and a few companies, and they were really selling, master marketers and selling basically boot camps all the time. That's basically all they're doing. Like Chris, on the other hand, wasn't really selling anything. He's just writing blogs, writing his journey, writing his experiences. We started doing podcasts or whatever once in a while. Like, so it was a different thing. He wasn't really selling much. When guys would inquire like about coaching, it's like, oh yeah, Scotty could do a one-on-one, but that wasn't like the premise of his site by any means. It was like way secondary as opposed to the mainstream PUA. Their whole thing is marketing and selling boot camps. That's it. So it was a very unique thing, and I think people caught that authenticity and the genuine vibe of it, just like a regular guy writing his, blogging and everything, and writing down his story and journaling, whatever. It's like, that was why I think a lot of people trusted him, and gained his trust. And by the time he did advertise anything or kratom or bathmates, like, people were just ready on board to buy literally anything at that point. You know what I mean? So it was a fantastic strategy on his part, and it worked really well. And the legacy continues, man.
That's what
Yeah,
I want
man.
to hear.
I wanted to just make another point on the aesthetic and the fashion stuff that you were talking about, because like a big part of what I tell guys with the fashion is like similar to what you said about like, you know, someone's face. Like if they go up and they notice your smile, they notice your eyes, all of that stuff, and like these are like things that can set you apart in the same way that, like, you know, the contrast of like, you know, what you're talking about, it does set you apart to some degree to what everyone else is doing. And a big part of what I think I know you like talked about peacocking earlier, and we kind of mocked that in terms of like they went a bit weird with that. There was some nugget of truth in it of like you can do stuff, you can self-improve in a way that will set you apart from other guys, which makes this whole stuff a lot easier. And obviously one of those things is looks, but also that's what I push with fashion, is that like if you have better fashion than everyone in the room, it's an area that one, girls actually give a fuck about, and two, it's going to be an advantage. In the same way, like you said, having those bright teeth is like they probably look at you and they've never seen a smile that good in that entire night before. You know what I mean? Like you're the best smile they see all night. They're going to remember you. They're going to be more drawn to you really quickly. And it's like you can have all the game in the world, but these advantages, you know, just make it so much easier in that beginning little intro bit.
Yeah, it's leverage, man. You're leveraging these things, and if you want to use it across, I'm not knocking Peacock. I think it could definitely work. I think also referring to all the terminology and stuff like that. I had never,
Yeah.
most people never heard of that term. It would just be like something weird, but yeah, absolutely, it could be peacocking itself. I guess is basically just using these tools or your fashion as a way to, you know, bring some attention to you and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, my contention is you don't need to do the weird and extravagant stuff. You just need to dress to a higher level with the better clothing, and you will stand out automatically, because a lot of people don't dress that great. So it's actually not, it's less difficult than dressing like a Vegas magician to actually stand out from other guys. It just isn't that complicated. But there
Yeah.
are some things that take, yeah, it's just that I think guys are like, oh, I need to go and dress super extravagantly and look like a quasi celebrity. It's like you don't need to do that. There are other ways of doing it that are a lot more, like, I guess, more socially, like, I was gonna say socially acceptable. We're not aiming for that. But we're aiming for like just a good standard, like a better standard. And like as long as you hit that in the girls' minds that you're just at a better standard than a lot of the guys she's been talking to, then it's going to be an automatic like foot in the door for you.
Yeah. And yeah, we want to stand out amongst the rest. That's the thing. We don't want to just be like everybody else. Like even if you pay attention to the details and you put a lot of time and effort behind the scenes, what all the work you're doing behind the scenes, ultimately I feel like there might be a delay gratification, but like you at some point you'll be rewarded for that, you know, down the road. May not be instantaneously, but like if you keep, say for a year or so, you take care of your teeth and you're getting them whitened on every 3 months or something like that, and by a professional, whatever. Maybe I was lucky to get braces as a kid, but I really like was conscious of that, and I feel like so many women had noticed that when I was happy to share that smile, and that really was a big part of my game as well, because behind the scenes you're putting all this work towards that, so it's like you will get rewarded, may not be instantaneously, but they'll, you know, down the road someone's going to appreciate what you're doing. You know, you're putting work in behind the scenes, and it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be rewarded, dude.
Yeah, it's like this is next on my list because I've got to get tomorrow actually I'm getting the head tattoo thing done to get like the fake hair on like this kind of thing. So I go and do that tomorrow. So they're going to basically make me look like they're going to fill this in, they're going to fill this in, and then that becomes like a skinhead look, you know, essentially. A few of our friends have got it done.
Oh wow, you're gonna get the whole head tattooed?
Yeah, so they tattoo it to make it look like hair, but like a shaved down head. Yeah, it's
Nice.
come quite a long way now. They look really natural, a lot of the best guys who do it. So I'm gonna get it done as naturally looking as possible. Because I don't have enough donor area for a transplant like Ravi has done. So maybe one day when they get the science up to a level, I'll probably get my hair restored, but it'll be like in 20 years when the technology is there to like restore someone who's gone as far as I have. Oh, yeah, Ravi, I see the hair, man. It's good.
And I'm pretty transparent. I'm pretty transparent about mine too. I didn't get the surgery or anything like that done, but I'm definitely thinning for sure. But like I use this stuff like just hair fiber, right? and you just basically kind of like spray it on, and it makes your hair, it fills out your hair and makes it all thicker, fills in all the bald spots. Now I look like I have a much thicker head of hair, but also a nice, cheaper alternative. But it depends how far gone you are. For someone who's
Yeah.
thinning, it's a really great investment. But yeah, if you're, some of my boys are bald and they got to go all in on it. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's no turning back.
I remember that was the thing after that. So my teeth are very British, so I have to get just to make the old
Right.
classic. So my teeth are incredibly British. I didn't get braces as a kid, and like I got like a couple out of line like here. So after I finished, because I got to pay for the hair and everything like that, my next big thing will be getting my teeth up to scratch over the next year or so. I'm already doing like whitening when I get a chance to, and I'm trying to take more care of them. But yeah, I had a thing with my teeth where I wasn't so conscious of their importance, and like I wasn't very good at taking care of them as a teenager. So now I'm just kind of like trying to fix it now as an adult. But I remember always hearing about, I think Chris always wrote about how like bright and like obvious your teeth were in terms of like when you came up to people.
Bro, it was like it was really like a cheat code at the time, man. I'm telling you, dude. It was I felt so confident with it because I was like, the money that was invested in it and stuff like that. Nowadays people are getting veneers and all this shit, but I don't even know if they look that great. I think if you could do it the natural way, keep your natural teeth, get, maybe if you can afford braces, go for it. It'd be a really good investment. And just go to these places, dude. There are, if you're in a big city, whatever, get your teeth whitened by a professional. Go every 6 months, and it will pay dividends, man, because you'll be eager to show off that aspect. Self-improvement is all encompassing, right? Chris, even though people, it may be a taboo thing, or, dick enhancement, whatever, if you want to just get noticed a little bit more and you're just average or something like that, I was a proponent of that stuff because I was self-conscious of that too, because I don't know, like, you hear girls say this, we're fed messages from society, small dick energy, big dick energy. These girls, or if you read My Nancy's Secret Garden, when there's just anonymous interviewers, girls say they like big dick all the time, whether it's porn. We're given messages that all the time. So it's something more to be self-conscious about. And if you can, improve in that aspect too, man, I'm all for it, dude. As long as and you'll be more eager to fucking show it to you, because there's growth there. There's like, oh, okay, you have to be dedicated towards that as well. If you're going to do it on a daily basis and use a pump, use something, you start to get results. I remember I worked with my friend Charlie. I think he's pretty transparent about it. He's the one who introduced me to the regular pump, and he said, girls would always make comments on it and say, wow, this is fucking great. So like, I'm all for that, man. Their self-improvement is everything. It's all encompassing, dude. Anything in which you dedicate time to and make an effort and time invested to improve yourself in some aspect, you're going to get it rewarded for that down the road. It might be a delayed gratification, but someone's going to notice something and say, dude, wow, look at that. That's impressive, like, or whatever you're improving. If you've improved your style and spent more money shopping or going through this stuff and making a conscious effort to improve something about yourself, yeah, it's going to be, dude, you're going to get rewarded for that down the road. And it just helps exponentially when it comes to meeting women, especially.
Yeah,
That's
man.
beautiful,
100%.
man. I love that. That's this shit's amazing. This is exactly what I was looking for, man. This is a great discussion between some really important men in self-improvement. And just to kind of give a little bit of context there, it might just be useful to highlight this in brief. So I hired Cam initially to support me with my image development, and like he helped me go all the way from when I was fat, I was obese. He helped me go from having like a really bad image, and I was aggressively balding, like I lost a lot of my hair and stuff. And we went through a long journey together, like lost the weight, changed my grooming around, like trimming my beard, and then got a hair transplant, and then like kept working in the gym, and then changed my accessories, and then changed all my different outfits and stuff. And we kept changing things. And it was a lot of work, but I absolutely promise you, exactly as Brian says here, over time, it started to compound. Like I do all the skincare, I do all the stuff that, I learned. And over time, my reception got better, and now like they treat me better. Like All the things came true, man, that I was told. You have to keep taking action, and you have to keep working on yourself, and you could consistently approach, consistently talk to girls. And I wanted to just highlight that, because when I took my coaching with Andy and Cam, I was really doubting it would ever work. I actually was maybe not the best guy to work with, because I was just so in a bad place mentally. I thought it was just never gonna work for me, because I was so fat and I was just looking terrible. But I stuck at it, and I'm so fucking grateful, because it did work, and it turns it all around.
Yeah, man, like we got you in some designer gear. I remember that. Like, obviously I can't take full credit for the overhaul, because Andre and Liam,
They did some
Andre
too,
and Pancake
definitely.
in the background too, giving advice on
Yeah, they're
stuff.
also mentoring me.
Some of those photos you got, I remember thinking that you've like eclipsed some of those photos, eclipsed the photos that I have and stuff, the ones that you got from like Poland, and like you're wearing the Dior jumper, you're wearing like all this shit. Yeah, you just look like, compared to the guy we met, like I don't know if Brian's seen like how big you were and stuff at the beginning, but it's pretty crazy, like the turnaround in terms of like what it's done for your face. Actually, that is the first place I ever learned about that. In obviously you and Chris, Scotty, had like, sorry, Brian even had sorry, I'm gonna call you Scotty or Brian, and it's always gonna be like, well, it's really interesting to call you by your actual name. So the things that I learned from you and Chris were the bodybuilding stuff, because like I wouldn't have had I think so many guys got a window into bodybuilding that wouldn't have never have had it, like would never have been interested enough to get into that stuff.
That's me.
Like the fact that Chris was explaining like 5x5 training, and he was explaining how to diet properly, and the other thing was like the fact that like you may not be bad looking, you might just be fat, was another thing that I'd never heard from anyone. And until you get your face down to like, until you're sub 15% going towards single digit, like you don't actually know what your face looks like.
You see this?
Oh my God. Yo, could you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see the difference?
Yeah, that's huge, man. That is fucking huge.
Yeah, and I didn't know this shit. Like no one tells young guys that like their face is determined by their body fat percentage, or
It's
they didn't back in the
crazy.
day, you know? And so until Chris
Bro, it
said
looks
that
like your
in, like, one
head
of his
would hit
articles.
the top of the shower head.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Do you actually have to get underneath the shower head? You have to raise it higher than it actually allowed to go. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess you had took it for granted. Not that you would have taken it for granted, Scotty, but like because you were in bodybuilding, you kind of knew everything about aesthetics already, like physique wise. Whereas like it's really helpful to tell guys that shit who didn't come across it.
I mean, yeah, bodybuilding definitely helped. Like I said, could you guys hear me? Because
Yeah, we can hear you, bro.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, I think I had a leg up in that department. I don't think, again, if I had taken conventional advice from just regular guys or what's out there, they would say it would have just came naturally for me, and it didn't come naturally for me. Like I did land 2 hot girlfriends, but I was petrified. Like, you know, I knew I had this, there was an abundance out there. The volume was there, but I still wasn't satisfied with these 2 girlfriends, especially hearing their transparency and their experience with men. I got an insight into at that point, like how many guys they were with and how much attention they were getting. Dude, I was like, I knew that I needed to like devote my life to really, in order to feel some level of security about myself and my situation. If I indeed want to settle down with a girlfriend, you know, I have to experience a lot of women and have the knowledge that I have a ton of options, just like these girls, because women walk around with tons and tons of options, right?
Yep.
And yeah, so the advice at that time, like when I was even competing, and Palumbo was like my mentor, he was just like, bro, what, you know, his only advice was like, when you are dieting for a show, you know, more girls are just going to naturally be interested in you. That was his way of saying that was it. And there was some truth to that, but that was like the advice. I say women come as a byproduct of your passion or your interest. And sure, I landed 2 pretty hot girls and I got some attention, but I really never honed in on my social skills and learning all the different, you know, strategies when it comes to seducing and picking up chicks, man. Like,
For
Did
sure.
Palumbo like
conversation properly, things of that nature.
Did Palumbo ever come around to like when you tried to explain to Palumbo on the RX show? I remember him like I guess he had a bit of resistance to like the ideas you came to. Did you ever manage to convince him of like your kind of viewpoint on girls?
He was, yeah, he was open to it, but I think it opened his eyes even on the show that day, like that the girls were in favor of my approach over Jeff's. So yeah, he was pretty surprised. I think his reaction spoke volumes. Like he didn't, I don't think he's ever done it. You guys have to understand something. We are in a very small minority of men. Like most men never approach strangers, and I didn't want to be that guy, dude. You get, even if you land one or two hot girlfriends just based on looks or whatever, like it was just eating me up. Like I knew there was so much more there, like there was so much more volume and women that were available. I never wanted to just feel like I was settling. And that's always what I felt like deep down inside, that I was settling for these girls when I want to be able to choose her out of like 5 girls or something. Like they just happen to fall into my lap, and I was, came from behind. I was like happy to take them. So yeah, he changed Columbo's a little bit for sure. But he always viewed me as a guy, like even prior to the pickup, he was like, he always saw me with like these hot girlfriends. So he thought, oh, you did well with women, but I wasn't doing that. Like just because I had these like trophy girlfriends, it wasn't that I was extremely confident with being able to pull a stranger or meet women at any time, any place, any city, walk up to whoever and have the confidence to know that you can get any chick. So no, I didn't have that.
I don't. Scott, I don't know about you, but as soon as I got a hot girl, I immediately like showed every guy friend I had that I'd managed to do that. And I don't know, like, there was something about that where it was like, and this drove me for like for the first part of my, the first year of my like pickup and self-improvement and just general was like, I want to be able to show off to my mates who don't think I can get girls that I can. Do you know what I mean? There was that kind of like, there is a kind of showing it off to men more than there is getting the girls in the first part of it, which I had to kind of overcome in order to actually enjoy women. I'd argue was I had to overcome that like thing of like I was doing it to impress people rather than doing it to actually have a good and abundant like sex life and feel love for people and stuff.
You know what? And there's really nothing wrong with that, Cam. Like I definitely was like that too. I was very happy to have my girls. I brought them to all of my like family gatherings and stuff like that. I was bringing them out around my friends at the time. I was, I was happy, dude. I was very happy. I felt like the man. But like I said, deep down inside, I especially after these women being transparent with me, and I knew they had so many options, and seeing it firsthand for the first time, I was like, dude, I gotta like at least try to like even the playing field. I don't feel like I necessarily chose those women. I feel like they chose me, really, at the end of the day, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just off sheer looks or whatever, they were into me. It wasn't game or anything like that, but just I knew I had to level up for sure.
Yeah. And that's why we are here. That's what you two men do in this world. You two make a contribution in this world to help men level up and get a life they truly enjoy.
And I think that's why me and Chris really hit it off, just to end that topic off, because like that's why the name Good Looking Loser. Like he also, before formal pickup, from my understanding, was that he was also like, could attract girls on just sheer looks and the way he looked and everything like that, but it wasn't satisfactory at all. Like
that's it.
Not whatsoever. So it's time to level up, man.
This is the thing. You see, in this episode today of the Scotty GLL podcast, we talked a lot of different topics. We talked about a lot of different ideas and how we can use self-improvement, how we can take massive action, how we can be consistent talking to girls to get a great dating life going for ourselves. Yeah. So just because we talked about something which was really interesting about self-improvement, you guys are talking briefly about how as you lose body fat, your face actually changes. I'm just going to share my screen real quick to just highlight how this happened for me, because I've got a good little compilation here. So you can see here, you guys can see my face changes. Yeah. that's hardcore underground self-improvement. That's classic GLL style. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
You look like such a teddy bear in the first photos.
Yes. And then we are in New York not too long ago. And like my actual structure of my face looks different from how it used to. Now it's like more masculine looking, so it's squarer. So it actually changed a tremendous amount. Okay. Now my next question is for both of you. Okay, I'm gonna ask the same question, but I'm gonna start with Cam. Then we're gonna take it back to the legend who started our movement, and we're gonna see what he says. Cam, we want options. We want choice. We don't want to settle. We want to level the playing field. What is your advice for men who want to build a great dating life?
To be honest, at the moment, I would advise them to jump into the community for the start, because there's a lot. I feel like there is quite. It might seem a bit overwhelming, but if you've got people have got your back in the community, and you can get in there and you can start with the starting blocks, and there's like a few starting blocks. You got to figure out what your bottlenecks are to start with. And for some guys, it's like they can't approach girls. It's like, okay, then we need to get some form of like help for your approach anxiety. Some guys don't have a looks basis, or don't have a fashion basis, they need some certain things fixing. And it's a lot easier if you've got eyes on you from within the community, from guys like who have already gone down the road. That's why you'd hire a coach like Scotty. That's why you'd hire a coach like me. It's like, we're down the road, so we can see the stuff that needs fixing because we've already been down it before you. But like, as I said, if you can't afford that kind of things, and you go into the community, become part of the community first, because then you're going to have all those eyes on you from guys who have fixed those certain things. So they're going to have it's going to be a lot easier for them to analyze your issues than it is for you to be able to do it. It's always good to have a second pair of eyes. But that's the only one thing I'm allowed to say. It's get a second pair of eyes on you from someone who knows what they're doing, and someone who's, gone out and been able to get abundant options. I would probably go and hire Scotty if you can. But if you can't, if that's too much for you at the moment, go and join the community and get involved.
Beautiful. Thank you. And now over to the legend, Scotty. Scotty, how can men build a great dating life?
Well, I appreciate that, Cam. Thank you. Yeah, for suggesting guys come to me, and I honestly think Cam does some good work too. And his roots are in GLL, and he's obviously devoted a lot of his time and energy into building a successful dating life in his eyes. So yeah, dude, I'm a big proponent on like getting a mentor, shadowing someone who's successful in an area in which you want to improve. And I think the only problem around like the pickup industry and everything, or dating life, is that it's got a weird stigma around it. It's people don't even know it's a thing, really. Like, it's not a traditional trade, or life is all about learning new things or taking on new skills, right? But for some reason, this is something that's like viewed differently. It shouldn't be, if you want to really, and it's the driving force behind a lot of guys' actions when you start to unpeel the layers. Whether it's work, whether it's why'd you buy that car, why'd you do this, why'd you get a haircut. So they're fooling themselves if they think that they're not doing it to impress women, right? So why not just go directly towards it, and admit it, and seek some sort of help or guidance. Even these naturals, these guys I looked up to, like the Pheromone kid, he even says, like, he himself like had a starting point, and he shadowed guys who were way more advanced than him, and I didn't really have that at the time, so that's why I took a am I still there? That's why,
Yeah.
that's why he took initiative, and that's why I took initiative, and was open to taking a boot camp and learning from guys better than me. Were they fantastic? No, I realized very quickly there was a smaller gap than I realized from the coaches, but good. That doesn't matter. It's about these guys are getting laid off cold approach, something I can't do. I don't know. I need to learn and study under somebody. So that's the first thing, is to admit that, what are you doing right now? Like, are you buying all these things, your work, and what are your underlying motives? And if you come to the realization that you're you're living a dissatisfactory life when it comes to dating and meeting women, because it makes life so much better and easier when you have a partner or multiple partners. You know, absolutely immerse yourself in some community. There's a lot of good ones out there. I get there's a lot of not so good ones out there, but um, I'm a proponent. If you do not have a baseline of like experience cold approaching women, I think you're going to fail miserably when it comes to online dating, because you may get some dates and stuff, but you're going to flounder around when it comes to in real life experience with this woman and how you sexualize things, and you're still going to struggle at those points. So before you just jump into getting a dating profile, unless you have an extreme amount of money and you want to go outsource it to somebody, and you definitely need, first and foremost, a baseline skill of just being able to approach the stranger and move to a city, if possible, that has a lot of volume. You know, that's should be addressed number one. I think the PUA, the community, kind of overlooks that and sells you a dream that no matter where you are, what your location, you're going to have a killer dating life. No, you're not. You know, I'm just being honest with you. You're not. You're going to need to move to an area in which there's a lot of volume, because we always talk about this abundance mentality. The way to overcome this abundance mentality is to, the only remedy that I've ever known is to mass approach and see that, okay, after those 10 rejections, they're actually meaningless, because the 11th girl is really into you and she's going to fuck you. So that's the way to dissolve this whole, you know, desensitizing yourself to rejection and developing that abundance mentality. You know, that would be my advice, man.
That's beautiful, man. Both of you gave beautiful, beautiful advice, and like I really resonate with everything you shared. And when I hear you guys talk about this, it just really makes me very grateful that I firstly found GLL. Firstly, I like took these things to heart, and now like fortunately we can continue this. So, but both of what you unified the answers that were given here. Find proven examples of success, right? And model after them. Why I love both Scotty and Cam, the mindsets, like the inner world. You guys are positive. You guys actually have loving relationships with women, right? I haven't heard toxicity. I never encountered this. And Cam helped me through my own internal challenges, which were severe, with the patience of a saint. Cannot understand how you managed to do it. Like God tier patience, Cam. My hat definitely comes off to you. But like, why the men here are a particularly great example is what we're talking about here is how to become a better human, how to connect with other human beings better, and how to put more love, expression, more sensuality, more sexuality into the world, and allow the world to be more connected. Now we understood kind of the overarching theme. For someone who's listened to this and in particular is interested in what you do, Cam, how can they find out more about what you do, and where can they find you online?
The easiest place would be Radical Improvements, which is my YouTube channel. I'm sure you link it if you're happy to.
Yep.
I also probably post more videos now on KillYourInnerLoser, which is run by our friend Andy. So if you want to see like the content I make for him, it's on that channel. So that, yeah, I'm kind of between two channels at the moment. And obviously I work with Andy, so like my coaching is all through him. So if you wanted anything from that end, it would have to go through Andy, and he would be happy to take any interest on that front. But no, it's been really good to talk to Brian for the first time. It's been crazy. This is like
amazing.
It is slightly surreal, yeah, because like
it is surreal. It was surreal for me as well when I rocked up. Yeah, like
I think Chris built Brian up so much as the legendary figure that it's like, oh man, Brian, he's real. Like Scotty's real. Like, like in a way that like you almost weren't a real person at one point in GLL because you weren't around. And like I think Chris wrote the goodbye post to say you'd like retired, and everyone was like, oh damn, that's just like Scotty's just like he's like now a myth, just like lost to time. And then obviously it was amazing to see you come back and do that interview with Chris. And I know Ravi's been helpful with this, but like the amount of like people who still respect and admire like the stuff you did, I hope that's been like great for you to see.
It's been great for me to see, man, and I appreciate the warm words. Yeah, I never knew I would be interested in coming back. I didn't think I was going to be alive. To be honest with you, I didn't. I had a rough patch there, 7 years. I didn't know where. I had no idea. I just happened to reach out to Chris. I was, and he said, "You want to hop on a podcast?" And like I didn't at that point in time, I was unsure what type of feedback it would receive, and whether or not I even wanted to do coaching. Man, I wasn't even living the lifestyle. I knew that stuff can't be erased. I know, just like bodybuilding or physique, it's like it was still in me. I knew what I did. That's another thing I would encourage guys out there. If you get this taking care of your life and go to some extreme measures to take care of this aspect, it's so powerful that even if you happen to step away for a number of years, or you get, married or something like that, and something takes place, like this shit is with you, man. Like you really change the fabric of who you are. This is a permanent fix. It really is. And that's some big claim, but I'm living proof of that, man. You could step away for 7 years and not really do shit. And the amount of work I put in prior, it was like just riding a bike, man. It really was. So
It's great.
I was blown away. I really was. That means that the brain has really changed. There, you did something to your brain to really change your chemistry and your reactions and stuff like that. It's a real deal change. So if you guys want a permanent fix, man, definitely hop on a boot camp or something, or work with Cam. I'm not sure, Cam. What are you guys offering? Are you doing just like a digital sort of?
Yeah, mainly
consultation?
mainly what we and Andy do is it's a mess at the moment because I offer like quite a few things, because I do a lot of stylist work as well, where I did in-person shopping with guys just to fix their look. If someone wants to pull the nuclear option on their style, they can come and do like an in-person with me in Vancouver, or I can do styling over like Zoom calls, or they can buy my course. But then if they want, in terms of like the actual dating stuff, everything's through Andy's coaching program, where we coach guys via like Facebook. So that's more of it's very much a self-development course that we go through there.
Cool, man. So yeah, definitely immerse yourself in this. Figure out what you guys want. You want to just improve your dating life, get more girls, get more options. Find yourself a good mentor, and you're in the right place. Will lead you to the promised land.
Beautiful. One thing that is underrated about Cam that some people, well, certainly myself, I feel gratitude for like every day. Of course, investing in coaching with Cam was extremely life-changing for me. You guys know how strongly I feel about Andy and Cam. And you guys know, of course, how strongly I feel about Scotty. It's just something I'm just very grateful that I was able to receive these things in my life. But one amazing thing is the brotherhood and the community, and that some people don't really understand. That was the Kill Your Inner Loser forum, right? This was Cam who built this up, right? People don't understand that when GLL started to wind down, yeah, Cam saw how powerful that brotherhood and community is. Yeah, to this day, Scotty, and I have asked him, he says one thing he'd do differently. He would have more camaraderie. He would have more of a community. So we're working on a Scotty community as well. We're going to be creating a group about that. But yeah, the reason I wanted just to give special props to Cam is that he created with Andy an entirely free community where any person who wants to develop themselves can come to, right? And now there's thousands of men who use it. I use it every single day. And it was because Cam saw how powerful having other people push you really is. And success is a team sport. When we show and we're with other people, like I feel better now just talking to you guys, right? It's part of this journey is you have to have your brotherhood around you, right? So you've got to give special props to Cam, who built an amazing community, which like I'm now grateful to be the moderator of and help sustain. And this is something that I really want to push. So definitely, I'll put a link to the community below where people can see the incredible contribution to self-improvement that was really Cam's brainchild. and all the ethos and stuff. That's a whole separate discussion that we can have, because like Cam's knowledge and depth in self-improvement is like really world class. So that's why I want to give him some serious props and respect, and of course extreme gratitude, because you did a lot for me, Cam, as you know, and I always tell you that I'm deeply grateful. And we're going to build on this too. The great things that I learned from yourselves. With the Scotty Bootcamp, there will be an actual community. We're thinking about doing like a Telegram group or a WhatsApp group or something like that. But there will be a Scotty Brotherhood, man, and we will actually be there, really in the trenches with each other. So it's something that we go through in a meaningful way. Because really, life is about people. Why we do all this is to develop ourselves as people and to give the best version of ourselves to the world. Yeah, bring in more community and connection.
Shout out to you too, man. The reason I think Ravi and I are a good fit with this is because, you know, when I was coaching, man, I'm like so personal with these guys. It's very difficult to draw the line between, like, you know, business and just friendship, because I just a lot of times just work with these guys for free. You know, I'm happy to do it. Was never really in it for just the money aspect of it. I was always working for my father's business. That's the one thing I kind of regret. Maybe me and Chris weren't exactly on the same page, same timetable, but things happen for a reason. And but now Ravi kind of like balances it out between structuring, you know, the business end of it, and not just, you know, everybody's got a value and a certain worth, but I have such a loving passion for this, is that like, you know, I spent hours and hours with these guys in the field, like oftentimes off the clock, just, you know, and I don't know how successful you could be and how scalable that is, but, you know, I don't regret it for a minute, because like you see, a lot of those reviews are just guys knew I was the real deal. And a lot of that stuff I got from my father. You know, my dad was one of those guys where he was told with this type of attitude and how generous he was that he would fail in business, right? But he proved a lot of the naysayers wrong. So I learned firsthand from him that you don't have to be so tight when it comes to money. You know what I mean? It's not all about money. Focus on the people first. Focus on your passion first, and let that stuff, that will come as a byproduct, you know. But having Ravi here has definitely made a big difference in making things a little bit more structured. And so shout out to him, man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. It's the least I can do, man. Yeah, you guys changed my life, and there's countless men, like thousands upon. There's a whole generation of men who are inspired by Chris and Scotty, and to kind of bow us out. Cam, is there anything that you'd like to share, or anything you want to express to Brian today?
Yeah, it's obviously just we're sharing gratitude right now. It's obviously immense gratitude to Brian for everything that you did in terms of the online stuff that I ever read, and you know, all the wisdom you passed on, even though we never actually done coaching. Is actually on my bucket list to do like an approach session with you one day. So like if you're ever interested in like let me tag along, or I can, you know, sort out a session or something, definitely be up for coming down if you're going to be in the Florida area. I have to figure out travel to the States again, but I'm going to try and catch Ravi when he's in New York anyway. So maybe there's even a big meetup that everyone can do.
We're going to do it, bro. There's going to be Scotty's bootcamp next year.
Sweet, man. I might be moving to Montreal or Toronto, so I'm going to be much closer to everyone who's on the East Coast.
Then you'll come and you'll hang out with us, and we'll have an amazing time.
I said, Cam, you have your passport?
Yeah. Passport's fine. It's just about whether I'm allowed in America again. It's got to sort out renewing the visas and stuff.
All right, bro.
Man. You have an open invitation. Both you guys, and obviously come down here and we'll have a good time in Florida.
That's awesome, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. All right, brothers. Scotty GLL podcast, leveling the playing field. Thank you to our guest today, Radical Improvements, who shared his wisdom. One of the OGs from GoodLookingLoser, shared a lot of wisdom for you guys today. I'm going to put all his socials below, so you definitely should go and follow Cam. And I'll link to, of course, Andy's content as well, which will feature a lot of Cam, and you'll be able to see his wisdom over there. But for now, brothers, we are checking out. another episode of Scotty GLL podcast. We're going to keep coming at you for the rest of the year. Our goal is to really build this and to connect with more guys and to really impact lives. So for you guys who watch us today, give us a subscription below, drop a comment, like this video, and if you have anything that you really want us to focus on, podcast themes or anything like that, drop a comment below. Let us know what you want Scotty and the guests to talk about, and we will go from there.